Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new video, and today I'll be no-damaging all the final boss fights in the Yakuza franchise, from 2005 all the way to 2024, as long as they don't release another game after Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, because if they do, that's gonna make my video kind of a lie, because I'm gonna put in like my title 2005 through 2024, but I'm not gonna include the game they release in this year if they release another game. So I'm actually really hoping that RGG Studios does not release another game this year. Please, don't do that. Do not make my video antiquated. But speaking of antiquated, this game still holds up beautifully, but this version is not the original PS2 version. It is the PS3 HD collection, which is just one of the best HD collections. It's one of the best HD collections in the franchise, and sadly just has never been translated. It is Japan exclusive. Look at that Komaki parry. One of the most notable things about the original Yakuza 1 is just how much of it is just carried over to future games. Like, so much of what makes Yakuza Yakuza was there from the very start. You got your tiger drops, your Komaki parries. However, I have a bit of a bone to pick with a Komaki knockback. I don't really like it in this game. I don't like how you have to like time it. It's a lot safer to pull off in like future entries, while in this game you actually have to like time it in a similar fashion to like a tiger drop or like a Komaki parry. But for the strategy here, in the beginning I did a little tiger drop, I did a little combo there. But then, once he gets his heat aura, he's basically so completely invulnerable. Like, yeah, he can still deal damage, but he's just gonna iframe all of it, but still take some sort of damage. He's just not gonna react to it whatsoever. And yeah, whenever he's stunned like that, boom, do a big combo there. And see what I mean? Like, the last hit, like, it did hit, and he did take damage from it, but it's like no reaction, light work. So, you're not really gonna have enough time to land enough hits and also dodge. So, I'm just doing the whole tiger drop strategy here. You could do a grab combo to kind of like interrupt him, but it is a lot more risky. But yeah, no, I was trying to bait out a very specific combo he does, like the little 3-hitter, and then I tiger drop the last hit. And whenever he goes into his non-heat mode, I just kind of go for the grabs just to kind of keep it safe, because even when he's not in heat mode, he is very susceptible to just dodging all your attacks. And if you're wondering about the timer at the top left corner of the screen, that is because the original Yakuza 1 has like the best climax battle system in the entire series. It's called the Battle Review, and it literally lets you replay every single boss fight in the game with like no strings attached. Because you can kind of do that with some of the climax battles they include later on, but like not really. This one, you can literally play every single side quest boss fight in the battle review. Like, the climax battles don't let you do that. And here is Ryuji Goda. And while this fight may be... Oh, wait, actually, since this fight is one of the very first fights which happened in this video, I should mention, this is actually the very first no damage I ever did on the channel. Like, Yakuza 2 was the first game I did, like, a Yakuza no damage of. Like, this clip right here is over 4 years old. Yes, I should have mentioned that, like, every clip here is a compilation, in the sense that I've pulled it from other videos. I pretty much, like, no damage all the boss fights in all the Yakuza games. Yakuza 1, 2, Kenzan 3, 4, Kurohyou 1, Dead Souls, Kurohyou 2, 5, Ishin, 0, Kiwami 1, Yakuza 6, Kiwami 2, Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise, Judgment, Yakuza, Streets of Kamurocho, the one game which was released on Steam, and you can't really get it anymore, I think, but it was free, and it was basically just a ripoff of Streets of Rage 2 with like a Yakuza skin put on top of it. Yakuza 7 or Yakuza Like a Dragon. Just the titles got weird because like in Japan it was called Ryuga Gotoku 7, like the whereabouts of light and darkness, while in the West they called it Yakuza Like a Dragon, like embracing the original series title in Japan, because in America for the longest time they were called the Yakuza games, but their original Japanese title is called Ryuga Gotoku, which directly translates to Like a Dragon. But with this 7th game, they kind of did this weird thing, which is kind of the worst of both worlds. The reason I would call it the worst of both worlds is because the Yakuza Like a Dragon title, which they use for number 7 in the West, just kind of makes the order more confusing. But I do appreciate them like kind of switching over to Like a Dragon after that game, because after that game came Lost Judgment, and then there was the DLC, Lost Judgment, the Kaito Files, and then after the Kaito Files, there was the remaster, remake, Unreal 4 port of Ishin, which will not be in this video because I already did the original Ishin. And they're basically the same fights, except that he kind of gets some superpowered attacks, and the actor is worse in the remaster. So I just didn't feel compelled to include him. This video is long enough, it's nearly 3 hours long. I hope you'll be happy with that. The original fight is still here, his moveset's still here, he just doesn't do like the big laser attacks he does. And like the Ishin, like a Dragon, Ishin, Remaster, Kiwami, what have you. The game just kind of frustrates me because it doesn't run well on the Steam Deck. It's been like the hardest task trying to record footage for it on Steam Deck, so I just kind of gave up and just never did it. But yeah, no, the reason I want to mention that this is the very first no damage like I've ever done on the channel, this Yakuza 2 video, and this Yakuza 2 final boss fight, is because it's very sloppy. This doesn't fit my standards of like how I would tackle this fight today, because I was actually doing a recent replay, like a walkthrough of the original Yakuza 2 on the original PS2, and I noticed that there's probably better ways of tackling Ryuji here. For one, taking more advantage of the Tiger Drop, but if you want to know, in this specific playthrough like of the game, I barely have any upgrades, as you can see there, and I have not unlocked the Tiger Drop by this point, so like while doing this fight, it was just not possible to use a Tiger Drop because I didn't have the Tiger Drop. So yeah, I could use a Tiger Drop more, but also I noticed that with certain heavy attacks, you can abuse iframes kind of like a square triangle. I've actually found that very useful, just because Ryuji's super tough in this game. He has so many counters. Like if you start attacking him like a little bit, he just counters you. He's very grab heavy. That's why I keep a good distance from him. And if you grab him from the front, he's always going to hit you. That's why I have to like run all the way to the back to like get some hits where he doesn't damage me. He can still break out of your grabs from the back, but he won't damage you. But if you grab him from the front, it's just game over. So you have to be really precise with the grabs, because if you accidentally grab him from the front, boom, he's just gonna headbutt you. But if you have enough health to like withstand it, you can kind of go and headbutt him back. But yeah, this fight really feels like it's designed for you to take some damage along the way, considering that like, you know, some of the animations, some of the QTEs in this fight are specifically for when you get like put down to the ground, you know. They really wanted to make this fight feel like, you know, two legends like duking it out, you know, landing hit after hit, like an exchange of equals. And no damage is not an exchange of equals. No damage means I'm way better than him, but this fight really did not want to be designed that way, but you can still play it that way. Especially if you do all the side content in the game and reach Amon, because you can unlock like the most overpowered heat action in the game by then. But then again, the amount of stuff you have to do to reach Amon in this game is probably like some of the most exhaustive in the entire series. You have to do like every single heat action in the game, some of which are missable. So you can actually miss some of the requirements to reach Amon if you don't do it in a certain chapter or a certain long battle. You know, it is very, very intense. Like all the heat actions, all the Coliseum boss fights, and well, the reason you need to do every single heat action, like you need to perform every single heat action in the game once, because there's a certain Coliseum enemy which does not show up unless you do that. But yeah, no. But back when I was like a super noob, like a super newbie, like 4 years ago, while making this video, like the only strategy I had was I grab him from the back, I put him on the ground, I try to build up my heat, and once I build up my heat, I take advantage of how overpowered like the mounting, like red health heat action is. Because, you know, if you keep spamming that button, like, you can just keep going. You can deal insane damage, and, like, the heat bar goes down so slowly. And another thing, that was on emulator, and on emulator, it's actually way worse to do, like, the button mashing. You have to, like, be constantly button mashing it, and like, I don't think there's any version of the game where that button mashing isn't super intense. Like, the least intense version of that button mashing is probably on the original PS2, and it is still very demanding. One of the more annoying things about the original Yakuza 2 is just that enemies will always grab you. No, like, there's some heavy enemies where if you try to throw them, you have to, like, mash the throw button so hard or they just throw you back. No, they don't throw you back. They just like, kind of bounce on you. Like, they just, like, belly flop you. And yeah, here is the final boss of Kenzan, and my sword is somewhat overpowered, so pretty much every single time I land a full combo, I just absolutely destroy him. But yeah, the strategy here, I was actually streaming this game as well, and I completely forgot how to do the strategy I'm doing in this video. But the main thing is, you want him to do like the big attack where he kind of swings into you, dodge to the side, and do a full combo. And, you know, sometimes if you dodge that attack, you'll be very lucky, but this guy can be very devious. He can activate, like, yeah, and whenever he does that attack, you just do 2 rolls, and that'll help you out with this guy. And the Amon in Kenzan is probably one of my favorite Amons of all time. Like, it's probably like top 3 Amon in the series for me, even though he doesn't have his own theme, but just the actual fight itself is probably one of the most fun. Because you have to unlock every single move in this game to get a little bit of dodge canceling. Every single move he does, like, it's kind of tough to get in, but there are ways to get in. The Amon. But let's stop talking about the Amon, let's just talk about this guy. But yeah, no. He has this devious thing where if he enters a 2nd or 3rd phase, you can't do anything to him without taking damage, because, like, if you try to do anything, he'll just super arm it. He'll just, like, super armor it. Or, like, there's a point where in his 3rd or 4th phase, he's fast enough to just, like, overpower your speed. He gets, like, way too fast. So whenever he tries to, like, level up to his 2nd and 3rd phase, just interrupt him any way you can. I mean, like, the dual swords, like, heavy attack is good for doing that. Certain heat actions are good for doing that, but never let him, like, activate his 2nd or 3rd phase. But one thing which is very annoying is that there's certain, like, special QTs that are hidden behind letting that boss fight enter his 2nd or 3rd phase. There's, like, a whole QTE exchange where, you know, it's, like, really cool, it's, like, very well choreographed, you know, it's, like, really epic. But the only way you're ever gonna see it is if you deliberately let him enter his 2nd or 3rd phase and kind of stand around a bit, waiting for it to activate. That's kind of the thing with this game. Like, a lot of the boss fights have, like, these really weird conditions to, like, activate, like, the QTEs. Like, they are entirely missable. Like, that's just something which these games don't really do in the modern era. Like, if there's a QTE they animated and, like, they put in there, you are gonna see it. It is not, like, you can't miss it. Like, I think in a lot of the games, like, the health bars won't, like, go out. You know, you can't kill an enemy until you do that QTE sequence. Like, even if, like, one of your punches, like, eliminates the entire health bar of the enemy, like, in one punch, like, you're still gonna have to see every single QTE which they animated for that sequence. But in Kenzan, you can just ignore all that. But from what I know, Tenkai does not have anything silly like that because he's kind of a bitch and I hate him. But he's also very easy, but not exactly easy for no damage because he can be a bitch in the sense that, like, his gun attack can come out very quick. So, like, you really do have to be careful with him. Like, he has, like, no telegraph. He just kind of, like, runs and then he comes back and just he fucking pops off in the same way JFK should have done. And I really hope that doesn't, like, fucking demonetize my video. And here is the Yakuza 3 boss fight. And since all these clips are compilations from my old Yakuza No Damage, I should probably mention that in my old Yakuza 3 No Damage, I did not have this intro during the fight. I actually pulled this intro from Devil Leon 7, shout out to him. He has, like, he's been a Yakuza trooper for the longest time, so cool on that. But yeah, no. I ripped the intro from his video and I just kind of synced it up with my video. Actually, I think I'm going to show you what the intro looks like if you just retry it on hard. Boom, so like every time you retry the fight on hard, they get rid of the dynamic intro and it just plays that. And that's what happens in my video, like in my old Yakuza 3 video. This video is also like 4 or 3 years old. This is like pretty ancient. But my strategy for Mine honestly has not changed that much like since then. I still just kind of abuse the fact that he blocks a lot, but every time he blocks, you can immediately send him to the ground with like a square, 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 triangle, triangle. So I kind of do like a little speedrun thing. Like every time he gets up, boom, 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 boom. But like that's not all I do. I also take advantage of the parry system in like Yakuza 3 because the parry system is kind of everything in this game. Like there is no other game where the parry system is nearly as important than in this game. If you don't have it, you're kind of screwed. In fact, the PS4 version actually makes this fight easier. Well, once he enters his orange phase, I'll tell you what I mean. But yeah, no, actually, before I talk about the orange phase, in the beginning phase, wait for him to kind of do like a rushing attack where he kind of tries to do like a flying knee. And once he does his flying knee, he's going to start doing like little dodges into you. And when he does those little dodges into you, once he's like kind of close and is about to do an attack, that's like the parry timing. You have to kind of get used to it. It's a little bit tricky, but yeah, no. This strategy you can do here, you cannot do this on the PS3 because I actually recently did an entire walkthrough of Yakuza 3 on the PS3 just to kind of like, you know, like confirm, okay, do the enemies actually block less in the original PS3 version? And my answer is a resounding yes. So if you've played Yakuza 3 on the PS4 or on PC, which made things worse, and you're wondering, wow, they block so much, how could anyone like this game? It's because the PS3 version is a lot less block heavy. Mind you, enemies still block. You still have to play a more defensive game. But it, like the PS4 and the PC versions, like the ports, and also the Xbox version, the Yakuza 3 remaster is on Xbox, isn't it? They do exaggerate it because the boost to 60 FPS just makes enemies a lot more defensive and also react quicker. So a lot of the strategy here is like, you know, you parry an enemy, you get behind him, you do a combo, or sometimes you dodge an enemy attack, you get behind him, you do a combo, or sometimes you knock an enemy to the ground, you pick them up from the ground, and do a combo from there, and like stuff like that was a lot easier to do on PS3 because on PS4 and on PC, enemies also just kind of like turn to face you a lot quicker, so you have a much smaller window of time to like land combos. Well, on the PS3, it's a lot more fair. It just makes the combat more fun. But I still think the combat is decently fun on PS4 or PC, but there's like certain long battles that are like way more frustrating in this game than they were on PS3. Like, I was actually kind of shocked, like, I was playing on hard during that walkthrough, and I was just kind of shocked, like, wow, these enemies are not blocking that much. But because enemies block less in the PS3 version, that orange phase is actually harder. Because you can't just do that combo just over and over again. He reacts too fast. Like, because he's like less likely to block. He's actually more likely to try to attack or dodge you. Oh, even the timing for doing that little like orange phase thing is a little bit precise. You have to be constantly on the ball. Because if you drop it once on the PS4 version here, that is where this footage is from. It is the PS4 version, despite the fact that it is 30 FPS, because I used the PS4, like, you know, like recording feature, which the highest resolution it could do was 720p 30 FPS. These are the dark days. But I'm very happy the PS5 allows you to record 1080p 60 FPS. It's gonna make the boss fights later on in this video look a lot nicer. The systems I use to play these games are gonna vary a lot. Like, you know, Yakuza 1, that was the PS3 HD collection. Yakuza 2, that was an emulation. Well, there's actually a brand new emulation patch called Yakuza 2 Restoration. Look it up. It makes the graphics slightly better. No, it makes the graphics better. Like, there's certain cutscenes which are like FMVs, which kind of look a bit shoddy, even on the original PS2 or even like the PS3 HD collection. This guy, the patch that he made, I don't know what dark magic he used, but he like compiled like the best looking versions of like the FMVs to make like a cutscene experience that's so much more clearer than the original game. So like if you're gonna emulate Yakuza 2, the Yakuza 2 Restoration patch is an absolute go. Also, he does something for like he does a couple things for more modern fans of the series. For one, he adds in like the Yakuza 0 font, the Edo. So that's just in Yakuza 2 now. If you do that patch. And another thing is that the localization is closer to Kiwami 2 than the original Yakuza 2 localization. It's like the original Yakuza 2 localization is pretty good for the most part. There's like one or two awkwardness. Those are like one or two things that are kind of awkward, but yeah, no, this patch kind of brings it up to the Kiwami 2 level. Great patch, great game. Yakuza 2 is still one of my all-time favorites in the series. Recently, I've been replaying all the Yakuza games through my walkthroughs, and I'm kind of re-ranking them. I'm planning on doing that, just redoing my all Yakuza games ranked video. Yakuza 2, I think, is still going to be very high up there. It's a personal favorite of mine. And now we are on Yakuza 4, which once again will be at 720p, 30 FPS. And I probably should have talked more about the strategies for the Mine fight. I mean, like, you know, when he has no heat, it's basically what I said before. On Orange Heat, if you're playing on PC or on PS4, you can do what I did there, as long as you have like good reaction times and do it very quick before he does any dodges, or just as long as he doesn't try to dodge your attack. For the red phase, mind you, in this video I don't do anything, but in some of my other videos, I actually managed to parry some of the attacks he does during the red phase. Basically like the big, like, kind of like lunging attack. He like lunges back and lunges in. There's only one attack you can parry in the red phase of Miname's like fight. And that's the attack you parry. But you don't parry the one where he like spins in a circle. That one's actually unparryable. I've tried so many times. If someone can prove me wrong, that'll be very epic, but you know, I was not able to. And for the purple phase, I mean, you can just take advantage of the fact that when he's healing, and just, there's certain heat actions you can do, even though I did not do that in the video. I just kind of waited for him to heal and just hit him a whole bunch. In fact, you can actually Komaki parry the healing animation. And during my Yakuza 3 walkthrough on hard on the PS3, I actually managed to land the timing. I was like more familiar with it. It's actually not that hard, but you know, I'm kind of a guy who's been like no damaging these games for 4 years or so. Not the best or anything, but like I've been at this for a while, so there's a couple things of the series I'm used to. And oh my goodness, I'm telling you, my original Arai fight here is very cheap. Like, I'll tell you, the very first like Yakuza no damages I've done was Yakuza 2 on hard, Yakuza 3 on hard. That was actually my second no damage video right after Yakuza 2. Yakuza 4 I think was a little bit after. I did a couple games like before doing this one, but I'm just doing this really like cheap like Akiyama like infinite strategy. I just keep assaulting this guy. This poor Arai, he's like one of the better final bosses in this game, and I'm just destroying him. That is one thing I'm not the biggest fan of like Yakuza 4. I mean, all these final bosses are pretty cool, but I don't think any of them are like as momentous as Mine, and it's because of the challenge. That's just kind of a thing with Yakuza 4 in general. It is probably like one of the easiest games in the franchise. It may actually hold the title for easiest game in the franchise, but Saijima's long battle, I think, kind of proves a little different on that. Saijima's long battle for like a beginner, maybe on Legend, can be insane. Also, if you're wondering about the differences between the PS3 version and the PS4 version combat-wise, you know, if you're wondering if the 60 FPS ruined anything about the original Yakuza 4, like I've seen some people complain about the Yakuza 4 remaster and that enemies grab you too much. They're like, oh, this is so frustrating. Now does the original PS3 version not have that? I'm sad to say the original PS3 version has the exact same problem. Like in large groups, like the length certain enemies will go to pretty much like super track your location. They like rubber band straight up to you. It's like fucking Mario Kart. You're in first place. They're in 11th. They'll fucking go all the way to like fucking 0.5 place just to land a grab on you. Like the length certain enemies go to do that is actually insane on the PS3. So I'm assuming the PS4 version is slightly worse with it, but it's basically the same issue. However, one improvement in the original PS3 version, which one thing which was good in the PS3 version, which got ruined in the PS4 version, is in Majima's boss fight. Hey, we're in the Yakuza 4 final bosses, so I assume you know about the Majima boss fight in the Yakuza 4. I hope I'm not spoiling anything. This is a video called, like, all Yakuza final boss fights, no damage. You know, it is the final fights in the game, the thing which we will only experience if you play the entire game up to this point. It's not like Super Mario. You can't skip, like, worlds or anything, but imagine that. Imagine being able to skip worlds in a Yakuza game. I mean, hey, I haven't studied the speedruns that much. Maybe there's glitches that let you do that. But, yeah, no. Let me get back to what I was yapping about previously. In the Majima boss fight, like in the second phase, you do this spinning attack. And there's actually a way to consistently dodge this on the PS3 version. However, due to the 60 FPS, Majima got faster, and you can't do that anymore. Basically, like for the Majima spinning attack on the PS3, you have to kind of go in a circle. But on the PS4 version, the only way to no damage him is just kill him before he does that attack. Because he now goes too fast to trick him out like by doing the circle. At least that's what I understand. Because like, I think everyone was like complaining about this. Like, I can't dodge this attack anymore. It's just straight up impossible. And you can't really block that attack with like, you know, certain equipment. There's certain equipment that lets you block knife attacks, but that attack, it just like the way it spins, it'll like hit your front and it'll just kind of start going to your side. So you really can't like block it. You have to do a little like running in a circle strategy on PS3, but on PS4 you have to kill him before he does that, and it is possible, but you know, it's just like less ideal than like the PS3 version. You really can't deal with it. As for this kiddo fight, the strategies for this fight are pretty simple. Just bait out the running attack, do one little combo there. The one sad thing about Saijima's playstyle is that it's very hard to like, you know, put in charge attacks into his combos. He just really doesn't have any combos. Like, this is about as complex as it gets. You can like launch him into the air. You can do like a square, charge that triangle, land that. That allows you to do certain heat actions. That's pretty cool. You can do certain heat actions by just doing the tackle and just throwing him on the ground. And yeah, in this old Yakuza 4 video, I am repeating heat actions, kind of a mortal sin currently in the no damage world. So there's going to be a couple mortal sins throughout this video. This is by no means the worst one. There's a certain final boss fight in this video, which may be some of the worst stuff I've done, but like, yeah, no. Typically, if you want to keep a real stylish no damage video, don't repeat heat actions. I redid this fight in like a remix sort of video. You may have access to that remix video later on, where I kind of varied up the actions a little bit. But yeah, for now, I just kind of kept it simple. There's not too much you can do with Saejima here. Just kind of did all I could here. One of the coolest aspects of Yakuza 4's boss fights is just the money flying around. You know, Yakuza 0 would really lean into that in like a lot of really great ways, but yet, no, Yakuza 4 is like the first one to have all this stuff flying around. It's so cinematic and dope. I really love it. But yeah, no, I want to get back to talking about the original PS3 version of Yakuza 3, because while it is less frustrating than the PS4 versions, enemies block less, you know, it's a lot more reasonable about how you can deal damage to enemies, but it still has a couple frustrating sections. Probably the most memorable for me is just the CIA battle, you know, where like all the CIA guys kind of crowd around you, just they keep teleporting in. That's still like the worst like fight in the game. It is insanely frustrating. Those stun gun enemies are the absolute fucking worst. I hate that enemy type so much. I mean, like, they're like knife enemies, except you like it's like more frustrating to deal with. And it should probably be said that like stun gun enemies have always kind of sucked. I remember they were terrible to deal with in the original Yakuza 2 as well, but I think they're even worse in the original Yakuza 3 there. And the remaster, I'm sure they like react a little bit faster, so it just makes it even worse in that one as well. But yeah, no, Yakuza 4, I'm actually doing a walkthrough of this right now. I'm not done with that walkthrough again. I mean, I've replayed all these Yakuza games who knows how many times. I mean, just replaying them normally, I've done each game like twice or 3 times just each. But then like for no damage, just kind of add on to that. I mean, probably like 4 or 5 times like each for each game. Well, the Kurohyou games, no. The Kurohyou games, I think the maximum amount of playthroughs I've done is like 2 or 3. I don't even think 3. Because I mean, I played the Kurohyou game normally, and then I did a no damage run of it. Those are probably the games I'm still the least familiar with, just because I've never played the English patch. The Kurohyou games, like the Japanese like PSP exclusives, developed by the same people who did Def Jam Fight for New York. I actually went to like a retro game store, and I saw that they had a PS2 copy of like, you know, Def Jam Fight for New York, and I asked for the price, and of course, it's over $100. That game is so expensive, but I really want a copy. My cousin like hypes it up so much. You get to like, it's just like a game where you get to play as like, you know, rappers. Like you get to play as Snoop Dogg, and you can like just fight it out in this really dope like 3D brawler system. Like, it's like a fighting game sort of system. Not like Yakuza, which is more of a beat-em-up system. There are differences. Like, I'll tell you right now, those Kurohyou games are probably like the most different from any Yakuza game, period. Because even Kenzan or Ishin still follows like the game logic and like the combo logic of like all the other like brawler Yakuza games. Kurohyou has a completely different set of logics. With like heat and combat and the way boss fights react to you, it is much harder to no damage, which means that like my very first Kurohyou no damage, oh, we're not even there yet, but we're gonna be there after we do all the Yakuza 4 boss fights. And to avoid spoilers in the time code, instead of like saying which boss fights I'm fighting, I just say which games I'm like, you know, doing the final boss fights in. So this Yakuza 4 time code just includes all 4 of the boss fights, but I have not delegated when each of those fights like starts. I hope that's not too annoying to like kind of peruse through. But yeah, no, for this Daigo fight, like later on in these other phases, he gets a lot of super armor, so you have to play it really safe. In the beginning, you can still do like a full combo. Once he gets like that heat aura, you do have to play it a little bit more safe. And he also has like counter. You can go to like a counter state, like in the last phase he enters. I actually completely avoid like his final phase just by doing this heat action, which does a lot more damage in this game than it does in like Yakuza 3. Oh my goodness. And also, I'm not sure if this glitch also happens in the PS3 version, but like just the money just ends up freezing during these like cinematic moments. Like it comes down very, very slowly. Like I mean, these are like PS4 recordings. I'm just wondering if this also happens on PS3. Like I assume it does, but like that's like one curiosity I'm gonna have to explore later on in my walkthrough of these games. But yeah, for Daigo, mostly I'll be using the Komaki parry, doing very short combos, and then like at the end there, I do my big mega heat action. And yeah, throughout I also did another heat action, the one where you roll into him. But in Yakuza 4, you can't abuse it as much as you could in Kenzan, because I was also doing the same exact heat action in Kenzan, though it has a different animation because you have a sword. But in Kenzan, you can just always roll into the enemy and it will always work. But like in Yakuza 3 and 4, you kind of have to like roll back and then roll forward. Like during my walkthroughs, I actually forgot about that. You need to learn like the roll back and then roll forward tech, because if you roll forward twice, you get too close to the enemy and like the heat action doesn't always register when you do that. So you need to build a bit of distance by dodging back and then dodging forward. You kind of have to get used to that little movement, but like it is very useful. Like by that point, you're basically going to input that heat action every single time, and it's one of my favorite heat actions in the series. Just any heat action where you roll into the enemy is very dope. Even though the way Yakuza 6 like reworked it isn't as iconic, though it does have a lot more usefulness, because like you can get so much mileage out of just rolling into enemies in like Yakuza 6, yeah, Like a Dragon Gaiden, Kiwami 2. I'm pretty sure it's in Kiwami 2. I mean, you can only do it against the enemies, not boss fights, but it still has a ton of utility, especially in Gaiden, because there's so many crowds in that game. It's actually unfair how fast you can spam the heat actions in Gaiden. But we're not going to be fighting a crowd as the final boss fight. We're going to be fighting one-on-one. Gaiden has one of my favorite final boss fights in the entire franchise. Maybe my favorite in the entire franchise. Honestly, I'm between that one and like two other ones for best final boss fight in the franchise. Like it's one of the best. It's like surprisingly like Kino. This one is fucking terrible. I hate it. Oh, I know some people are going to be mad about me using the word Kino. I think there was like a fucking 4chan thread of me. Like I said the word once in like one video, which I don't even remember, and like the guy got really mad and like made a thread about me. And then it got derailed into like a bunch of racism, just usually as you do on 4chan. Like someone linked it to me because like it's just, I got haters, which means I'm doing something right. But yeah, no, this fight's fucking terrible. I'm abusing this weapon because every time I do the circle attack, it gives me iframes. So I pretty much do the circle attack every time I hear that fucking bitch-ass police chief, like Munakata, like do his little gunshot. He just does that little like dumb sound, like like I can't fully replicate it, but like every time he does that gunshot, I do the little like special circle attack, which does waste a lot of durability on your weapon, but that's pretty much how you use iframes. Then once we get to this point, well, it's kind of a crapshoot, and also I didn't know how to fully deal with the bodyguard captain. The way you deal with him is you get really close to a wall, right? You make him bounce off the wall, and then you just kind of go from there. But I didn't know that during this fight. I actually learned that like in the last like minute or so of this fight. Oh. Yeah, I had to let the dog out. Not my nephew, the original dog. She is very swag and cool. But yeah, no, this fight, I'm struggling a lot. Just this fight's always going to be a struggle no matter what you do. Like, it's just like, why would you make Tanimura fight all these crowds? But mind you, I don't think these crowds would be fun with any of the characters. Like Akiyama, if you put any combatant here who grabs you against Akiyama, it's gonna be a crapshoot. Saejima, he's just like, he's built to tank hits, so like for no damage in a crowd, he's not that fun. For no damage, mind you. I mean, you can still stomp the crowd like normally if you're just playing this game normally and like not doing an insane challenge the games aren't really designed for. And while Tanimura here, the only saving grace is that, you know, he's got these little parries, but even then it's not the most helpful thing. Kiryu, I mean, like, you could do some grab combos here, and like the bounding throws are probably going to be super useful. Maybe you could, the tiger drops in Yakuza 3 and 4 are probably like my least favorite tiger drops in the series, just because they don't really have any invulnerability. Like, you can still take damage even if you successfully land a tiger drop. That's not true in the original Yakuza 1 and 2. It's just a thing which Yakuza 3 and 4 have. And then once we get to Yakuza 5, you're finally back to having full invulnerability if you manage to land a tiger drop, which is like the whole challenge. But in 3 and 4, it's more challenging. It's like you not only do you have to like land it, you know, like time the tiger drop correctly, you also have to space it out correctly. And there's just certain attacks you can't tiger drop without also receiving damage along the way. It's just very frustrating in like 3 and 4. So that's why Yakuza 3 is like very much a Komaki parry game, and well, Yakuza 4 is basically the same. Though there's still a lot of utility to using the tiger drop in Yakuza 4. There's like a certain very frustrating fight at the top of Kamurocho Hills where you kind of do have to use the tiger drop, and you just have to learn how to time that pitch correctly. But yeah, no, I find it a very frustrating like design choice, which just, I'm glad they got rid of it like from 4 onwards. But yeah, no, it was in these games, and I do think it's worth mentioning. I'm pretty sure like Akiyama's like tiger drop has full invulnerability, but just Kiryu's, nope. So that's just very strange, you know, it's just like very inconsistent in that matter. But yeah, no, like for this fight, what you see is kind of what you get. I was trying to do like, you know, the gun heat action against Munakata, and I just kept kicking him. I kept failing. So then every now and then I'll do like one of Akiyama, like one of Tanimura's, like, you know, combo heat actions. That's one of my favorite things about him. Like every heavy attack you deal has like a heat action you can do, and if you keep repeating those heat actions, you'll get like a revelation, which allows you to do QTE during those heat actions to deal more damage. That's one of the most satisfying things about his playstyle. You just kind of lay on the damage that way, mind you. Still not as much of a damage dealer as like Akiyama or as Saejima or Kiryu, but still like a more defensive playstyle was kind of a fun change of pace, though. His combos do just kind of end up, make them bounce off against the wall and just go to town. That's pretty much all you do here. But boom, I did my 2 kicks, little heat action, and boom, the game is done. Yakuza 4 on this recent replay, I am liking it less, just like the boss fight selection. I really wish the game had a better boss fight selection. But it still probably will be one of my favorites, because the original Yakuza 4 on the PS3 was the first Yakuza game I ever played. Like, the way I played through these games is pretty strange, I'm not going to lie to you, but yeah, the original Yakuza 4 was the first Yakuza I played, and there's a ton of things that are really fantastic about the original Yakuza 4. I think its story for like the first 3 quarters is actually really great. It's like super tightly woven, like it keeps up suspense. It's just that in like the Kiryu section, it all kind of falls apart. But up until that point, like if you put the events in chronological order of Yakuza 4, like you'll see that the story is like so tightly woven. It's a great little mystery. Up until the Kiryu section, it all just kind of falls apart, and like a lot of the payoffs are really unsatisfying. It is so great at building up everything, building up this great conspiracy, because like Yakuza 3, it has a really dope little story, you know, like I love the orphanage, but in terms of like the conspiracy stuff, like I think it really, I don't like the style of Yakuza 3 as much as like the conspiracy games. Like Yakuza 2 and Yakuza 4 is more like what I'm looking for in like a Yakuza story, you know, like twists and turns, you know, like things kind of being put in like non-chronological order, having to like piece everything together and then like coming to a conclusion at the end. And well, Yakuza 2, its conclusion is also kind of silly, but I don't think it falls apart nearly as hard as Yakuza 4. So like just like Yakuza 3 has an episodic structure, I'd say, because like there is some twists and turns, there is like some non-chronological aspects to it. For one, Yakuza 3 starts in media res, which is a pretty interesting decision. I think it works pretty well for that game. Honestly, like before I thought it was kind of silly to start in media res, just because like I have no idea who Rikia or like the deaf girl is. No, she wasn't deaf, she was a mute. But like on a recent replay, I do think it works better in like it just makes things like really tense at the beginning, you know? Just it was a good use of the narrative device. But then like after a certain point, it's just episodic, you know? You'll have the chapter where, okay, we're gonna deal with the orphanage and Rikia. You'll have the chapter where, okay, well, the chapter I'm about to talk to about right now is one of the best chapters in the game, and also just like one of the best little mini arcs in the game, where you have to go rescue the mute girl. Like that's a beautiful moment. That's just like a there was this one reviewer, I don't know who it was, who pretty much like described it like the perfect like mini encapsulation of like an entire Yakuza game. You know, it just tells you everything that's good about the franchise in like in like the first 3 chapters. So yeah, no, like I mean the Tamashiro showdown, you know, like the little reveal where like the mute girl really loves like her Yakuza dad. It was beautiful, man. It was beautiful, dude. And on the replay, I was like, hell yeah. Like the one thing about the PS3 version of like Yakuza 3 is that the only thing that's better is the main combat, because like the remaster does everything else better, the translation's better, it has more content. It's just that like the boost to 60 FPS just kind of screwed up the blocking. So, but then again, the main combat system is kind of like the main gameplay, but in terms of story, you're gonna have a much more cohesive and better time with like the remaster, which is more faithful to the original like Japanese release, because like there's certain things in like the PS3 release of Yakuza 3 which there's like a whole thing that dealt with racism, which on the original PS3 translation they kind of like paint over it, because the girl, there's this like one orphan girl which you have, which she doesn't want to date black people. She says that out loud, but in the English translation of the PS3 version, she just says, I don't want to date a guy like him. So you could really take that in a much broader sense. But what she says in like Japanese is, I don't want to date someone who's black. And in the PS4 remaster, they changed it to her actually saying that. Anyways, I am talking about games which are not on screen. This is Kurohyou 1. And this no damage of the final boss fight is also very antiquated, but one reason why I'm like more proud of it than say some of my other antiquated no damages is because I'm pretty sure I'm the first person to no damage this boss fight. So yeah, there's a lot of people who like found a lot more tech with this guy, where it would like be more stylish. Like me, I'm very much abusing him. Like I'm using this taunt in order to like bring out this one attack he does. Whenever I get kind of close to him, I like block just to kind of like anticipate certain things. I think when I'm trying to grab him, I'll do this thing, like whenever I reach red heat here, I'll try to like, you know, kind of bait out an attack. I'll get kind of close to him, I'll try to grab him, and if like the grab fails, I'll block. And if like after he's done with his attacks, I can grab him, I'll just grab him, but at that point I kind of have to run away. But Kurohyou boss fights on X hard have so much health, and that's the other thing. Check in the description, and I will have I'll have it annotated, like in the time codes, like what difficulty I fought these boss fights in. I think that is important to mention. I didn't fight every single one of these boss fights on the hardest difficulty. So, you know, if you want to clear that up, did I fight them on hard, legend, you know, normal, so on and so forth, that is in the description. For the very first Yakuza game, I fought that guy on normal. This attack is such a bitch to dodge. You basically just run away, but like sometimes, even if you run away like really far, like he'll just reach up to you. Like the way some of these guys can track you with like their big super attacks is very insane. But yeah, no, like what you see is what you get with this video. It's gonna be like 9 to 10 minutes of this. The music theme for this boss fight is awesome. Like, I mean, it is like the non-vocal version of like a vocal song, and even the non-vocal version will get your video copyright claimed, but like not like taken down. You just can't monetize it. However, if I keep talking and doing this commentary like really loud, that won't matter. That's kind of like my strategy with like all like, you know, copyrighted content is I just put commentary over it and I'll get monetized that way. But the no commentary versions will be demonetized. But at the very least, the video doesn't get taken down because there's like certain songs. There's like certain songs from anime. Like I tried to use like a Guilty Crown song in like one of my videos, and it blocked my video worldwide, which was very frustrating to deal with. And it's also inconsistent. Like a song which didn't block your video before could block it later. So, you know, just stay careful of that. You know, be really, really careful about that. But yeah, no, like the Kurohyou 1 combat system, it just works so different from like any other game in the franchise, because like, every other game works on like the finisher combo system, where basically you press square and you press triangle in the middle of your square presses, and you'll do like a different heavy attack. So that's how you build combos. So, you know, it's like square triangle, that's one combo. Square square triangle, that's another combo. Square 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 triangle, that's another combo. You know, different heavy attack, different finisher. That's how basically every single Yakuza game works, except for Kurohyou. Even like Kenzan and Ishin work the same way. Like, I mean, and also like in the games with multiple combat styles, like, I mean, they kind of play around with it, but it still follows like that exact same template. And yeah, it gets a little bit more complicated. You know, you'll get multiple finisher attacks. You know, you can do like square, 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 triangle, triangle, triangle. But basically, the main basis of the entirety of Yakuza's combat system relies around press square a certain amount of times, and then press triangle, interrupting those square presses, and you'll do a certain heavy attack, depending on how many times you press square. That's how it works. Kurohyou is not like that. Like, the combos are fucking weird. Like, you know, you'll press like the punch button and it'll punch a certain way. You press like the kick button and it'll kick a certain way. And different combat styles in this game. But that's another thing. You have access to multiple combat styles, each with their own different moves, different heat actions. The way heat works in this game is also different. Basically, you don't have a heat bar. You just have 3 levels of heat. Okay, you can build up to blue heat, where if you grab an enemy, like, you'll do a heat action. You can build up to yellow heat. A yellow heat will always be an environmental heat action in the first Kurohyou game. They changed that in the second. And then if you build up to red heat, you'll do a stronger heat action, but a different heat action. And every single fighting style you unlock in this game has different heat actions. I think some of them may repeat, but yeah, no, that's pretty much how it goes here. And all the assets are copied over from either Yakuza or the Def Jam fighting games. I have not played the Def Jam fighting games myself, but I am told that like a lot of the fighting styles are just ripped straight from that game. And if this game is representative of how the gameplay in Def Jam is, I am so excited to play Def Jam. Honestly, if I could no damage the story mode in like Def Jam Fight for New York, that would be so awesome, but I really want to own an original PS2 copy, since I actually have a PS2 that can play it. Though once I buy that game, that's also like a multiplayer game. You can go 1v1 with people, you know, like you could be Snoop Dogg, another guy could be Ice Cube. I'm pretty sure Ice Cube is in that game. And also, I'm just told broadly, Def Jam Fight for New York is easily the best one. There were like some more modern ones on Xbox 360, which I heard just kind of lost the spark a little bit. I don't know if they're terrible, but they did kind of lose the spark. Anyways, if you're wondering about what that yellow marker is on this game, the way this game does health is also different than like any other like Yakuza game. And also, it's like the only Yakuza game when you're playing it, you don't see your health bar. So the only way you know whether you took damage or not is to access the pause screen, or to pretty much like beat the boss fight and then like watch at the end where you, like, at the little results screen, it'll show you like how much health you have at the end of the fight. And also, like, whenever he goes purple here, sometimes you kind of run and do a dash attack. And also, like, the dodges. And also, just the way boss fights interact with you is way different than any other Yakuza game. Like, they are way more counter-heavy in this game. You can do this thing in this game where if you dodge an attack at just the right time, there'll be a slowdown effect, and you can, like, counter-attack. But and also, you have, like, counters. But the way you do counters in the original PSP is very weird. You have to, like, press, like the block button and circle at the exact same time, or, like, the block button and like, the D-pad at the exact same time. I don't know. It's like, this is an original PSP game, so like they kind of had to like, you know, for certain attacks, they had to like, you have to press 2 buttons at the exact same time because they didn't have enough buttons or triggers to just like lock certain things to like their own, you know, function. I hope what I'm saying makes sense, but yeah, no. I have not taken damage in this fight, but every single one of your limbs has a durability system. So because I've been blocking his attacks with my arms, and he's been hitting my arms, the durability of my arms has actually gone down, and that affects certain things. I think you deal like less damage, or like whenever you block his attacks, you kind of stagger a little bit because, you know, your arms kind of hurt because owie owie. But my main health bar has not gone down, so technically this is no damage. But if you want to like be a real like pain in the ass, like, you know, like completionist or whatever, maybe you should try no damaging this fight without any of your limbs taking damage. But that would pretty much mean never ever ever blocking at any point, basically like a no block run. I know people have done no block runs of like Wii Sports Resorts, like a swordplay showdown mode, so maybe you should also do it in this game, but I don't know about all that. Yeah, no, just the boss fights can do the same exact things you can do. Like basically, like most of these boss fights are equipped with like your same ability, so they can also counter you. So if you're attacking them, like even if you're attacking them from behind, I'm pretty sure they can like pull out a counter on you every now and then. It's kind of random. It's kind of RNG. Basically, it plays more like a fighting game than like a brawler game. Like in the brawler games, there's somewhat consistent ways to kind of like go down on the enemies. While here, the consistency. Oh, he went down on that rail there. Just boom, a complete curve stomp from the air. So it doesn't really make him a curve stomp at all, but just like some part of his jaw must have hit something there. Very, very painful stuff. A very long battle, but I hope my commentary is making it less boring. But the Kurohyou games are awesome, and you can definitely play them more stylishly than I did, but I had like no references to pull from. Like usually for these no damage videos, I'll see the way other players have like played it and, you know, kind of go from there, but there was like zero no damage walkthroughs or no damage attempts at Kurohyou. Like maybe if someone in Japan did it, like, I mean, I feel like I'm the first English-speaking person to actually no damage the boss fights in Kurohyou, because there was zero videos on it like before I did, and now there's a lot more videos, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful that game's getting more exposure. It's awesome, but now there actually exists English patches for the game if you emulate. So if you emulate, you can actually understand the story. I have not played any of the English patches yet, so I'm actually planning on replaying those games like on a walkthrough or something with the English patch, just so I can actually understand the story. And yeah, I am taking damage there, but this moment is literally impossible. I'll be doing no damage for the entire rest of this fight, but for this one specific moment, like, yeah, you have to like pretty much spam the button to get out of the grab, and you can't spam the button fast enough to like take zero damage. You're gonna take a little bit of damage no matter how many times you spam that button. Also, the QTEs in Dead Souls. This boss fight I am playing on the hardest difficulty possible, which is called Dead Souls, and the QTEs are so fast in this game. So I'm actually doing a trick on the original PS3 where I'll just activate the home screen, which actually pauses the game, so I can like react to the QTEs, like, you know, with more time than like what the original game offers. A bit cheap, yes, but since I'm playing on the original PS3, I decided to do it. I actually redid my no damage on PC emulating, but there you can't do the same trick. So there I actually have to like get used to the timings, actually like react fast enough. It's like literally like a split-second reactions. Like some of the worst QTEs in this series has to go to like Yakuza 2, but like Yakuza 2's QTEs, like the way they work is that they will always be the same every time. So like if you already know what they're gonna be, you can just press those buttons and be good. But if it's your first time playing the game, you have to like react to them. They're like pretty fucking fast, no lie. And besides that, Kashiwagi's like QT in Yakuza 0 is stupid fast. Like, you know, and some of my no damages, I actually kill him before he can do that QTE because it's just like insanely fast to react to on the hardest difficulty. And also in the Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise game, you know, the Toki fight, like the guy with like the white hair and like the green aura, his QTE on the hardest difficulty is also insanely fast. As for this fight, there really is not much to it. Honestly, it borders on like a tutorial fight. Like, I mean, like, they're telling me, like, oh, like, the guy just opens his mouth and I have to aim something into it. Like, what is this, Zelda? Like, I mean, why are we being, like, so hand-holdy here? Like, it really doesn't feel like a full test of our skills. Like, honestly, the fight before this one felt more like a genuine final boss fight. More like 1v1, it felt kind of hard, you don't have to deal with it. It had a lot of, like, he starts summoning, like, blood zombies. Yakuza the Dead Souls story is pretty entertaining. I don't know if I go as to say it's one of the best ones, but, like, it has a pretty cool, like, zombie twist with, like, Yakuza flair. And just like the previous boss fight is actually like pretty sick, has an amazing theme. This boss fight, they wanted to do like the big, epic, like giant boss fight, but like it's just so easy. But like certain things which aren't easy about this guy is like the big stompy attack where he just stomps his fist on like the ground. Sometimes it can kind of track you in weird ways and just clip you when you least expect it. So, you know, basically just like dodge roll out of it, but just be aware it's kind of a pain in the ass every now and then to like actually dodge that attack. And just the QTEs. The hardest thing about this boss fight is easily the QTEs, because if you fail any of them, like he pretty much heals a bunch of health, you take damage, and you have to like repeat the whole thing over again. And here we're gonna have Kurohyou 2. And the combat system is slightly changed from the first game in subtle ways. Basically, you can build up only to 2 levels of heat. you have blue heat and red heat. The yellow heat has been completely eliminated. However, you can do environmental heat actions in a more dynamic fashion. Basically, in order to do an environmental heat action, you actually have to like have the enemy near something environmental, and then you can do the heat action. Like you have to like pretty much splat an enemy against the wall, then you can do a heat action there. So you only have access to like your blue heat actions and your red heat actions, and the environmental heat actions, you have to like pretty much like set up the conditions yourself to like pretty much do those same heat actions. So like it kind of cuts the fluff a little bit. I do like this setup, because before just the yellow heat action, just yeah, you're gonna do the environmental heat action, but here you actually have to set that up. And, yeah, this boss fight has one of the best final boss fight themes in the entire franchise. It is awesome. I love it a lot. But once again, like the first Kurohyou game, I did not have much help or like examples to pull from. And also, I did this fight very under-leveled, so like just the length, you're going to feel the length. I'm going to be doing a lot of the very similar things. Just kind of relying on charge attacks, grabs, and, you know, what have you. And I love the way the song syncs up there, but I cannot stop talking, because if I stop talking, this video is going to get copyright claimed. Once again, the only final boss fights in this video which copyright claim my video are the Kurohyou ones, because they both use licensed songs. I wonder if that's going to make, like, porting them a pain in the ass. Like, I mean, are they ever going to port these games? Like, are they ever going to translate these games in English? Are they going to do a Kiwami? I feel like these games are pretty dead in the water in that sense, but you can always just emulate, and the PSP is, like, not that graphically intensive, so I feel like most computer setups should be able to emulate PSP games like pretty smooth. But then again, I mean, computer setups can be pretty bad as well. So like, I mean, it's not guaranteed. But yeah, whenever an enemy is like in an exhausted state, you can go more to town on them without like them reacting out of your combos. I don't know if the first game also had that system, but I feel like Kurohyou 2 just lets you like combo enemies a lot more than the first game. Like they're a lot more susceptible to it without like countering. Like Kurohyou 1's just kind of slightly harder in that sense. But yeah, no, I fought this guy slightly under-leveled. Like the way I did my no damage for Kurohyou 2, I did it during COVID too. All my footage for my Kurohyou 2 video was, I actually had COVID while doing that video. So like my throat was kind of scratchy. I was basically going through like the common cold, the common COVID. I was staying indoors, you know, like keeping to myself because I had the virus in me. But thankfully, I mean, I got past it, you know, I mean, I healed up. But yeah, no, just, it's crazy. I literally had COVID while no damaging Kurohyou 2. So that's one of my favorite aspects of just that video. Also, the way I recorded the Kurohyou games was very funky. This is not footage from an emulator. This is footage from the actual PSP, like native hardware, like recording. But like the way I recorded is I bought like an upscaler, like a PSP upscaler, but not like a real one. Basically, it just allows you to like connect it to your TV and like have it displayed on your TV. But I don't actually think it like upscales the game at all. It's not like a RetroThink 5X. It's just literally like, yeah, you can play it at 720p on your TV, even though I think it's just making the screen bigger. I don't think it's actually upscaling anything. But that's how I was able to record it with an HDMI device. I just hooked it up to like this 720p upscaler thing, and then that thing you had to like connect an HDMI to it. So I was able to connect the Elgato HDMI to that, and that's how I was able to get footage of this game. So like, yeah, it's nowhere near as clear as like emulated footage of this game, and honestly, if I do return to this game in any capacity, it's gonna be through emulation, because just it is a little bit like foggy. You can't really make out like the character models too much here. And I don't know if I don't know about this, but I think Kurohyou 2 may or may not have worse graphics than the first game. But that might be because like Kurohyou 1 only had Kamurocho, while Kurohyou 2 has Kamurocho and Sotenbori. It had like 2 hub worlds now. It's like it's the Yakuza 2 of the Kurohyou games. Even though some people like the first game better, like for my last like playthroughs, I think I'm a much bigger fan of Kurohyou 2. Like the combat feels a little bit more smooth. Also, another thing is that I'm pretty sure the sound quality is worse in Kurohyou 2. Like I guess to like save space in order to like have 2 cities in the game, they have to like, you know, crunch up like that audio. They have to like compress it a bit. One of the most crazy compression stuff which I've seen in action is just like SMT Nocturne, like Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. That game, you listen to the original soundtrack without any compression, and it's like you listen to the way they sound in game. It is so fucking crunchy. Like the crunch is like very like cool in a way, but it's like holy shit, they compressed the shit out of all the music in that game. And I don't even think there's like an HD remaster of that game now on PC, you know, Xbox, like PS5, whatever. I'm pretty sure the sound quality is still the same, which is like, you know, what's the point? Couldn't you give it, like, we have more space now. You can like have the uncompressed version of like this soundtrack, even though I guess like the compression is very iconic to the original game. And for that game, I mean, I'll probably try to play it on the original PS2. I do hear that like PS2 copies of that game do run pretty expensive. And also, I don't think that game is possible to no damage. It's a turn-based RPG, and it's one of those like really hard as fuck ones. So like, I don't think it's like a Yakuza 7 where you can like kind of cheese it by being max level. I don't even think the game has. See, when you dodge at the exact right time, you can get a slow-mo effect. But one of the more fucked up things this game does is that you're not guaranteed to like land a hit on the enemy, even if you activate the slow-mo effect. Because I've had situations where like, you know, I'll do a little slow-mo effect, I'll like do like the counter attack you get from the slow-mo attack, and the boss fight will counter that counter. It is fucking lunacy. So that's why I play these like boss fights so safe. I don't know if like anyone's figured out a way to get past that. I mean, I think some people have, but oh, excuse me, I'm drinking way too much ginger beer, and I guess it just started bubbling up in me. But yeah, no, like the Kurohyou games are actually like the ones I really want to replay the most, because like I am actually like I'm not really solid on where I would put them in my rankings of the entire series, because like I put Kurohyou 1 really low and I put Kurohyou 2 really high, and just looking back in retrospect, that just doesn't make any sense to me, because like they're not that different of games. So like I really want to like replay both of them, like really judge, should I have these that low, should I have these that high, because like there's certain games which I'm pretty much locked in, like these are absolutely my favorites in the franchise by far. Like those, like I have a top 3 which I think is not going to change no matter what happens, and that top 3 is Yakuza 0, Yakuza 5, and Lost Judgment, and in what order, I'm not sure, but it kind of flips around, but those 3 games are easily my 3 favorites in the entire franchise. I love them very dearly. I don't think any game in this series is going to change that. Yakuza 8 did not change that, but the Yakuza 8 did rise really high, because Yakuza 8 is so much fun to play. Oh my goodness, the turn-based combat in the game is just genius. It's a genius move. Ooh, that was one really good counter. He did like the little like flying kick thing, very flame, and boom, then I counter, I grab him, do a little heat action there, bum, 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 bum. Ah, I love that, man. Yeah, like my footage just kind of makes them look like they're in a black void. When you emulate the game, it's not this dark. But yeah, no. Just making like normal attacks actually fun to use. It's just a genius design choice. Like I mean, just there's so many turn-based RPGs, when you finally reach endgame, like the normal attacks are useless. Like I mean, fucking in the endgame of like fucking Persona, you do a normal attack and you just fucking cry to yourself for how little damage it does. And also like a lot of enemies just block normal attacks later on. Even some of the early game enemies just block normal attacks. Like there's no point. But Yakuza 8 is actually fun. Even in Yakuza 7, doing a normal attack, you just watch them like deal like fucking a nipple of damage. You go, oh. Like you just get sad, you just like fucking tuck yourself in and I just go to bed. Just turn the fucking game off, it's over. But like 8, oh, it's so much fun. Especially when like, there's so many things which 8 adds to the gameplay. It just makes it so much fun. It kind of makes it hard to go back to 7. Because like 7 endgame is kind of miserable, while 8 is just a lot more fun and a lot more flexible. Just really like makes it feel like more of a brawler Yakuza game in a turn-based style than 7 did. Just so many smart decisions there. But yeah, enough yapping about that. I should probably yap about a game which I'm going to play right now, because there's still like another hour before I even start talking about that game. Before we even reach the final boss fight of that game, which I do no damage. If you're wondering, the turn-based games are in this video, and I did no damage to boss fights. 7, there's a big asterisk to how I no damaged it, but for 8, it was a legitimate legend no damage. Hardest difficulty, it is possible to no damage both final boss fights in that game, 100%, and you're gonna see it in this video. Though you're gonna have to use your infinite wealth to pull it off. But yeah, no, I mean for this guy, I mean sometimes when he does like his big Mario like ground pound attack or something, you can sometimes just run in and like do like a running grab heat action just to throw him to the ground. And then there you kind of have to like, you know, dodge, be very careful, because he has a lot of attacks you can just pull out of nowhere. His charge attacks can be pretty dangerous. Sometimes you can do a charge, like this one charge attack I do is very safe. Not 100% safe, but because you go back and then forward, it's like just more, you can like rely on it more than some of the other ones. Like, just charge attacks in this game, just like you can really abuse them as long as you get like enough distance on the enemy, as long as the enemy doesn't like charge in on you. So like if the enemy starts doing something like charging, you can charge back at them as long as like you're far away enough from them. But yeah, there's a lot to the Kurohyou combat systems. Just really play those games. They're really awesome. The English patches, I mean, I heard like at first they were kind of unstable, but I heard they got a lot more stable. They've been patched over. So yeah, no, play these games. They're awesome. They are Japan only, and they're probably gonna stay like that forever. So, but at least there is a way to play them in English without having to use a guide. Because like for a lot of the Japanese like Yakuza games, I played them. I mean, for a lot of the Japanese Yakuza games, you still need a guide to play them. Kenzan, you still need a guide. The original Ishin, well, I mean, there's the remaster now, so I guess you can play that, and that is completely in English. But the original Ishin is still, like, Japanese only. We don't really have a version of that in English yet, because the remaster just kind of changes a couple things, which make it, like, run worse than the original, and, like, just the original actors aren't really here anymore. I have, like, my nitpicks with, like, the Kiwami version of Ishin, even though it's not technically a Kiwami. And for this one here, I mean, you could kind of go in while he's about to do another attack, but you have to, like, time it really well. And I'm just scared. I'm like, this guy's scary. He's just stomping around. He's like, oh, oh, oh. So I kind of have to, like, really wait my turn here before I jump into hula. But it's kind of like when you're, like, jumping rope. Like, you know, doing jump rope, and then you have to, like, jump in while the jump rope is still going. That's what that attack is like. And that stuff always stresses me out. So if you're wondering why I didn't jump in before, it's because I am not very good at jump roping. This makes sense, right? I'm making sense. Oh, yeah. one of the most frustrating things the Kurohyou games do. Oh, I just beat that boss fight. Yeah, but before like this boss fight's over, one of the most frustrating things these games do is that you can't skip any cutscenes on your first playthrough, which is like they would assume, hey, you want to watch the cutscenes. Like literally, even if you turn event skip off. Like event skip on, like in some of the earlier games, like in the original Yakuza 1, 2, 3, 4, you have to like actually go into the menu and like activate a certain setting to be able to skip cutscenes. But even if you do that in Kurohyou, like 1 and 2, like on that very first playthrough, you can't skip any of the cutscenes. I'm telling you, like the cutscenes in Kurohyou 1 and 2 get very wordy, and I was watching them, but characters just like info dump and babble for so long. Like they really do kind of drag those things out. They're in a very cool style. Like if you ever played like Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops or Peace Walker, the Kurohyou games have a pretty similar style, but like, you know, slightly different for stylization to be more like Yakuza. It looks awesome. It looks incredible. It's a great way to like make the game age better. Because, you know, if they did in-game models for the cutscenes, it just would not look the same. And even just like the way the game goes about like porting the entirety of Kamurocho to the PSP is very charming. They have to use like pre-rendered backgrounds for like the open world, which means if you emulate the game, they're very easy to break. Like like Tatsuya will just be standing on top of a building just because like the fucking pre-render can't stretch out that much. And that's also another reason why I played on the original PSP, just I don't have those issues. But yeah, no, that's really a fun little way they got the whole game in here. And now that we've reached the Yakuza 5 section, I decided to include Haruka's final boss fight. Even though it's not really a final boss fight, but it's like the last thing she does, the last big event she does. So I might as well include it. I mean, she is one of the protagonists. Like the way I'm kind of like classifying the final boss fights is, you know, each protagonist has their own final boss fight, and they will be in this video. That's kind of the same way I did like my own final boss fights ranked video. However, another like stipulation I'm adding on top of there is that there's certain games where like the final boss fight does not feel like the final boss fight. Like Yakuza 7, like the actual final boss fight is kind of a punk, and there's a fight right before him, which is like actually like this is like the culmination of all like your skills and like XP and leveling up that you actually need to use it against this guy. And like the guy afterwards is just kind of like an epilogue of sorts. So I decided to include the guy before him. Basically, I included Tendo in this video, even though I did not include him in my all Yakuza final boss fights like ranked video, which I do kind of regret because he's like really, he actually is like the final boss fight of 7, all things considered. Like yeah, like Matsuya Arakawa or whatever, like being the final boss fight fits the story very well, but he's a piss cake. You know, he's very easy to defeat. He's not challenging at all. It's just like an emotional story beat. And then boom, activated my super like. Oh, yeah, I really love the icons in like the bottom right of the screen. They're like the kind of Powerpuff Girl style, even though that's not really Powerpuff Girl. But you know, it's a very cute style. And yeah, thankfully the rhythm minigame section of Haruka's stuff is super easy. Even though for no damage here, I did not get great on every note. In fact, I'm also not getting great on every note. I'm getting some goods. But the way I'm classifying no damage is not dropping the combo. So at no point have I dropped the combo, but I did get a couple goods. And I know like the really hardcore rhythm game players, they're like, if I don't make every single note perfect, I am going to fucking not play this game anymore, right? Like I know people on Osu, people on the Persona 4 and 5 dancing games, like if I don't perfect every single note, this is not a good run. But for me, I'm not that intense right now yet. Maybe one day I'll no damage like those fucking Persona 4 dancing games, but like I am not very good with rhythm games. When they get like stupid hard, and they feel like Yakuza 5 doesn't get that stupid hard, but I really wish this game had more activities where it got like slightly harder because it really is super easy. And mind you, this sort of gameplay never shows up again in like a main story setting. So like making it super hard would be like very like, you know, off-putting, but like I really would have wanted more challenge in like the side content because once you level up to like max level with Haruka, everything's a cakewalk, even like a moan. Like the reason why I don't want to classify that last concert battle as a final boss is because she has a big performance she does in like the final chapter of the game that if you actually got to play it would feel more like the final boss of Haruka's section, but you're just not allowed to play it. So like the last concert she does, that one, which happens like near the end of her section but not the end of the game, is pretty much like technically her final boss. But yeah, no, I just wouldn't, I don't know how you would even be able to like play her section in this chapter because like the concert she does happens like throughout every single boss fight you do in Yakuza 5. So like by the time Haruka's done singing at her concert, Kiryu's like on the brink of fucking dying on a snow-covered street after fighting Aizawa. So it's just like, you can't really have like a single boss fight for Haruka in this section because like her entire boss fight happens throughout the events of this fight, Baba's fight, like, you know, Kanai's fight, and Kiryu's like fight, which leaves him bleeding out on a snow-covered street somewhere, you know what I mean? And Yakuza 5's cliffhanger is like so beautiful. I really love it. Honestly, I'm kind of sad that Yakuza 6 kind of retcons it, but like, you know, like, this series just keeps retconning deaths over and over. But yeah, this Majima fight, very tough to fight like conventionally because, you know, Saejima is such a slow person, but if you just take advantage of like your red heat actions, and also like at the beginning I kind of did like a little combo where I just sent him flying away from me, kind of start off with that and go from there. Yeah, you do want to deal as much damage as possible before Majima can summon his fuck-ass clones. Like, while he's on the ground, he can, like, deal heavy attacks. That's, like, one of the things with Yakuza 5 is that you can, like, hit enemies on the ground with, like, your normal attacks. You couldn't really do that so much with Yakuza 3 and 4. You have to do, like, the designated, like, kick the enemy on the ground attack. But, like, in 5, like, you know, there's, like, a lot more... You can, like, actually, like, hit them with heavy attacks while they're on the ground. So that's very fun. I mean, you can also do it with certain attacks in Yakuza 3, but, like, not with every attack. Well, in this game, you can kind of do it every attack. So yeah, no, you can take advantage of, like, certain combos Majima does. Like, when he ends him, you can, like, grab him. There's, like, certain combos where, like, you can actually get a little combo in there, do, like, a little heavy attack there. And with the shadow clones, you just have to get really lucky when you're just, like, tackling them, because it really just amounts to tackle those guys. Yeah, I think, like, for... When he does, like, the full combo of him, like, you know, jumping around and slashing his sword, you can take advantage of that. You can take advantage of that combo. Just go in, do a grab attack. You know, like, land one of these. Very nice. But there's, like, a jumping attack, which you can really take advantage of. Like that one. Once he does that, boom, boom. So that's like the main strategy with him. Thankfully, like I dealt enough damage to go into his QTE. You can get so much damage done just by doing a couple heat actions, and then those heat actions lead into like big QTEs, and then for the big QTEs you deal more damage, and then once you get to like the Shadow Majima phase, you kind of have to pray. I think there might be more tactics to it than that. Maybe like a good way to like notice which Majima is like the real Majima, because once you tackle the real Majima, all the other clones go away, but just kind of tackle around and just try not to get hit. I forget exactly, there's like a better way. Like maybe try to make one of the clones or like the real Majima try to attack you. Once they're done with an attack, tackle into them, because like if you just tackle into them normally, they can also dodge you. And then for Shinada, I mean, it should be pretty self-explanatory what I do here, just kind of taking advantage of heat action, taking advantage of this sick little grab animation he does, like a little elaborate, but I think it looks very cool. Like Shinada, he's more limited than the other protagonists, but like for Yakuza 5 specifically, just like Yakuza 5 in comparison to like Yakuza 3 or 4 is kind of limited tech-wise, because you know in Yakuza 3 and 4 you had like the bounding, and that just is not in this game in the same capacity. You can't do bounding combos like nearly as smoothly. So you just kind of abuse like very broken aspects of the game instead. Like with Kiryu, you can abuse bounding combos because you don't need heat anymore to pull them off. For Saejima actually is much better to play in this game than in 4, just because Saejima was not very combo heavy in 4, and he still really isn't in 5, but now he just has more crowd control abilities. You know, you can swing enemies around like they're a fucking, like, you know, like gummy worm or whatever. It's awesome. And then when you get to Shinada, like he just has a lot of things where you can like pick enemies up from the ground. Like his grab combos are also very intense. But he feels a little bit more suited to this game. Well, with Kiryu, you can just stomp them, but here, like, I think this guy's a little more deliberate. Like, your timings actually have to be very precise. You can, like, infinite enemies certain ways. Some of his weapon stuff is pretty fun, especially, like, the weapon, like, the specific weapon heat actions he has access to. Like, he can, like, pull out a weapon, and during that, like, the pulling out weapon, like, animation, that's a heat action you can do. Though I don't do it in this video. And just the one thing which really brings Shinada down, he does not have a good counter. Like, you know, Kiryu has the Kamaki parry, the Tiger Drop. Saejima gets his own version of the Tiger Drop in this game. He did not have that in 4, but he has that here. It's not the best. In fact, I kind of hate it. The reason I hate it is because the timing is completely different than the Tiger Drop. Like, the Tiger Drop has a very specific timing, so you would assume that Saejima's Tiger Drop would have a very similar timing. It's different. It's, like, slightly delayed. Or, like, you have to, like, press it slightly early or slightly later. Like, it just does not feel natural to pull off, because I'm so used to how the Tiger Drop works. But then you get to Saejima, and it's just, like, it's a completely different thing. It's like, what? Like, I don't know why they did it that way, but whatever. He has one, and it does help with certain boss fights, though I did not do it in this video. And really, for Majima, it's not really the best to do. Like, a lot of his attacks are so wavy, and you just have better options anyway, like safer options. But then all Shinada gets is that if you, well, like, at one of his, like, max level, like, abilities that he unlocks, if you press, like, you know, R1 and grab at the same time, you do this little counter where you get right behind the enemy, and you're just grabbing them from behind. It's just that once you do that, a lot of the enemies and boss fights just break away from it, so it just makes it very useless. Like, why would I, like, time this and try to pull it off if, like, you know, 9 out of 10 times the enemy's just gonna break out of it? You know, I can't really make that much use of it. And also, one of the more annoying design decisions in Yakuza 5 is just a weapon upgrade system. Basically, like, you have to keep using weapons to level them up, and you have to level them up. No, like, you don't level up the weapon, but you level up, like, your proficiency with it. It's just a stupid grind. I don't like it. I kind of want each character to have, like, the same amount of, like, experience with each weapon. And if you want to learn more about the weapon, like, you know, set up a trainer for that. But, like, don't make me, like, you know, use the weapon in random battles to, like, you know, level up my proficiency with them so I can, like, hold, like, a more slightly shiny sword. I didn't have to do that in Yakuza 4 or, like, 3. So it's just very silly, you know? Like, at most, I had to go to a trainer to be able to use certain weapons, but, like, nothing like the level up system in this game. I'm very glad they, like, abandoned it in future entries, because I do think it was, like, a miss. It was just it was a bad choice. Also, another thing is I'm not a big fan of like the red heat action ball thing because it just works on like a build-up system. You know, like you just build it up, you use it, and that's it. Like there's certain like Kiryu's big red heat action he was able to do in like Yakuza 3 and 4 by parrying an enemy, and that was the condition you needed. You parry the enemy, and if you're like you parry the enemy, and if you have enough heat, you can do a cool heat action. But here, there's no real skill involved to it. You just build it up, you use it, and then it's gone. You have to build it up again, and that's that. Like, you know, like you just kind of use it when you have it, or you just kind of build it up before a big fight just so you can use it once. So yeah, no, just it doesn't feel as smooth or like as skill based, you know, and also you just use it less, you know, it's very limited. So that's another thing I'm not really that big on in this Yakuza 5 combat system. Yakuza 5 is still one of my favorites in the franchise. The game, at its core level, I think feels good to play. Like, when I hit an enemy, I really like the way that bounces off. But, like, a lot of the higher, like, skill ceiling tech from, like, 4 is kind of gone. For one, Akiyama's, like, infinite just does not exist in this game. He does not have one. Like, he kind of has an infinite of some sort with, like, the basic enemies, where he can just keep stomping them while they're on the ground. You know, like square, square, triangle, triangle, like with a basic enemy. Like they just, if you timed out a certain way, you can like infinite enemies. That's just no fun. Like the reason why the infinite is fun in like Yakuza 4 is because it's actually like skill based. You know, you have to like boom, 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 like dodge roll into them. You have to like set them up a certain way. You know, you like space it correctly. It's like actually fun to pull off. And yeah, it is like way too overpowered. Like because I was able to beat the entirety of the Yakuza 4 boss fight just by doing it, but like it's like an actual fun thing. You have to be involved with the combat system. While here, it just feels like a cheat. You know, like the game was not designed around that, and there's like not really that much like involvement from the player to like pull it off. That's like one of the more annoying things about a lot of the tech in Yakuza. Like the supposed tech is that it really does not involve that much like player like skill to pull off most of it. That's why it feels like there's less to do in this game in comparison to like Yakuza 3 and 4. But there is also a couple improvements. Just like I think this game feels slightly better to play, but I really wish it had like the same utility as like Yakuza 3 or 4. Just like, you know, you just can't really deal that many combos. You can't do like that many sick little combos. If you wanted to make like a Yakuza sickest combos video ever, Yakuza 5, you can't really do all that much in comparison to like 3, 4, or even like 2, or like future entries after the fact. So that's just worth mentioning. Though a lot of my complaints are kind of strictly on the boss fights, because when you're fighting normal enemies, they are a lot more lenient with how you can hit them. And that's probably one of the things which is more fun in 5, because in Yakuza 3, I mean, like, even on the original PS3, sometimes enemies do block a good amount. Like, the normal enemies, you know, you have to play more defensive with them. In Yakuza 4, they kind of were a lot more lenient on that, a lot more lenient on the blocking. But then we get to Yakuza 5, and a lot of the normal enemies, they don't block you too much. So yeah, you can, like, do a couple more combos on the normal enemies, but you can't do any bounding still. And also, you kind of have like these big super heat modes in this game. For Kiryu specifically, you just kind of press a button and he goes, "Hoo-ah!" And then you just, like, you can't lose. Like, you know, because like every attack bounces off of you, they don't deal damage, and you just teleport to every single enemy and just attack them a whole bunch. But even that super mode, just like the reason it doesn't feel that good against boss fights is because they just block everything you do. I mean, mind you, balancing that thing against boss fights does seem kind of like a nightmare. And like, just like the thing they went with is, okay, they're just gonna block every attack you do after like the first or second one. Like, just there's really like very few ways to actually set up like that combo, because the actual like combos themselves are very slow. It's just like you're completely invulnerable when doing them. You can teleport to any like small enemy, so like it's super powerful against them. But I should probably also just talk about the actual boss fight happening on screen. This boss fight is fucking infuriating. Like, the way I've been talking, it's kind of like I'm ignoring it. It's just kind of like, oh, it's not that bad. No, this is fucking infuriating. Basically, I have a bunch of like items equipped to deal more damage. I have the double health bars. You're seeing it slightly go down. That's not because of damage, but because in this game, when you activate the double health bars, the second one's just always gonna go down no matter what you do, just like gradually. So, you know, you just use it while you still can. And the double health bar allows you to like pretty much like upgrade your stats a little bit. So like the thing below the double health bars, that only happens when you have double health bars in this game. And yeah, no matter what you do, it's gonna go down, but you don't really take damage. So yeah, no, like, I mean, just watch the video. I did not get hit a single time, so that means I never took damage. That's how you judge that. But yeah, for that fight, I have a couple items equipped, you know, to deal more damage, to make the enemies attack me less in the crowd. But that's kind of a crapshoot. I don't know how you could even quantify whether that item helps or not, but I use it. And in the beginning, I do like a little taunt heat action, like a taunt red heat action against like Kanai. I try to go for like a little throw thing after, like, I do a lot of heat action with Kanai, and then like I try to deal with the crowd around. I try to do like the heat action with the crowd, and when I don't have enough heat to do that, I try to land a few hits here and there, but the crowd can be very, very aggressive, and the invisible walls in that arena are fucking infuriating, dude. Like, yeah, no, in the original game, you have to actually parry the enemy and like set them up in a stunned state in order to do that heat action, but here, you just have the red orb and you just do it there. I mean, I just parried for old time's sake, and also the Aizawa fight here is going to be very, very parry heavy, because like all his attacks just have insane tracking. this is still like one of the best final boss fights in the series. So I do think like Yakuza 5's combat system does a slight disservice to it. If you want to do no damage, I mean, I really should do like a better version of this, but I did kind of route this fight where I know when his heat aura is going to activate, and like when the enemy's heat aura activates in this game, I like that they're not like invulnerable, because like in Yakuza 0, when they activate their heat aura, like every attack you do while they're like doing their little like, you know, heat aura activation taunt, it just bounces off of them, while here, it doesn't. I think that's awesome. You know, you get to like land a couple more hits while they're taunting you. I think that's dope. And if you know it's coming, you can take advantage of it. Because, you know, if you don't know it's coming and you attack them like too late, they'll just like automatically go into an attack while you're like, you know, attacking them yourself if you're not done with the attack by then. But yeah, I really wanted to show off just how indulgent the QTEs are during this fight. Like, they're probably like some of the longest stuff in like any Yakuza boss fight, and like they're so like over dramatized, and I love it. That's not even a bad thing. I'm saying like, look at the framing in that, like the framing of the ceiling, that's incredible. And just the way he fucking throws him like that, like look at his arm strength there. Yeah, no, I think it really works for this fight, because like before the conclusion of Yakuza 6, and before the conclusion of Yakuza 7, and before the conclusion of Yakuza 8, and before the conclusion of whatever new game comes, because I feel like they're going to find another way to milk Kiryu. I don't know. I feel like the ending of 8, you know, he's like fucking... I mean, no, I'm going to have to spoil it, but after the ending of 8, it does feel like Kiryu's story is pretty final by then. But like, imagine they try to like conclude it one more time. It's like, yeah, one more time, guys. We need to bring him back. Yeah, before all that, like this felt like the conclusive final boss for Kiryu, just with all these QTEs. Like, just it's the most dramatic fight in the series. Like, the most amount of health, like the most amount of like stage transitions, and yeah, like a lot of these stage transitions do owe a lot to the way the Shindo fight worked, but like it's even more dramatic this time. Just like it feels like the big epic conclusion of the Yakuza. Even though the actual character himself is a little bit disappointing. I just coughed straight into the mic. I'm sorry about that. I saw like the feathers on like my muffler here like fluff up a bit when that happens. That is very, very strange. But yeah, no. I mean, I've been dogging on like the Yakuza 5 combat system like a good amount. I mean, even the way I'm doing this is pretty cheap, because once again, I mentioned it, like the bounding combo Kiryu can do is very broken, so you just kind of abuse it like this. Also, I believe that during this fight, I'm trying to do as many heat actions as possible in order to get another red heat action. Like, I start the video off with a red heat action, and I want to like, you know, do another one, you know, just build it up again. I think I'm actually going to like take a couple items to lower my health specifically to do a different like red heat action. There's like 3 Kiryu can do. One with normal health, one when he's drunk, and one when he's like on the red health. So those are like the 3 different red heat attacks you can do. Here just picks this up and like here just kind of swings through it. Like the stuff here is so dope that Kiwami 1 just kind of copies some of it. No, Kiwami 1 like copies like the Kuze QT from 0. Like this one just gets rips like almost wholesale for the Kiwami 1 fight. Except I do think the Kiwami 1 version of it with Nishiki has better sound design. But yeah, no, like we're going to be fighting that fight later on. It's going to show up later in this video. And you're going to see exactly how the animations got copied. And they didn't include this section, but like they included the part where you're just like boom, 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 boom. So yeah, no, that was like kind of disappointing to see. But the other big QTE is copied from like the Yakuza 0 fight. And that's like the one thing which was really disappointing about Kiwami 1. Besides all the boss fights having reused movesets, is just that even though one with Nishiki, who his moveset's kind of like a combination of 2, kind of like this weird combination, kind of like the one it was in 0, but like a little bit more developed. Just like his big dramatic moments are just animations copied from other things. Like they include the flashbacks. The flashbacks are cool, but the animations are just taken from other fights. It's just like it doesn't make it feel as special anymore, you know? But yeah, I've just been dogging on like Yakuza 5 like combat system. Like it still is like in my top 3 or maybe even my favorite in the entire franchise. Because like the side content is so awesome. Like it maybe have like my favorite side content in the entire series. Like the taxi, the hunting, even the idle stuff as long as you ignore the handshake events. And like the new way they did baseball, like just like the way that content is handled, I think is super dope. And I mean, okay, the hunting one, I do think the beginning of it's very boring. Like the tutorial for it is like way too hand-holdy and just goes on forever. But once you're done with the tutorial, the hunting stuff is awesome. Just like the 5 hub worlds, just like the scale of Yakuza 5 is something which I don't think any game in the series has ever matched. Like really, it just feels so unique for that alone. The 5 separate hub worlds, you know, Kiryu's, like, you know, yeah, Kiryu's, Sotenbori, like Shinada's world, Saijima's world, even though Saijima has like the worst pacing in the entire game by far. But despite that, like, I mean, I really am gonna have a bias for this game for like until the end of time, because I find it easy to replay. Like, for a replay, I just kind of hop in, I do Kiryu's side content. By the time I'm done with like the taxi stuff, I'm like almost fully leveled up. I defeat Kiryu's section, and then like Saijima, that's like the one thing which makes replays kind of annoying. Like, his chapters just drag on and on and on, and the only time you're in the city is in one chapter, though that one chapter does tend to be longer than, like, here's one thing, the chapters in Yakuza 5 tend to be pretty fucking long. So even though there's only 4 of them, like, there's a lot more in those one chapters than, like, a lot of the Yakuza 4 chapters. Like, there's a lot of really short Yakuza 4 chapters, but the Yakuza 5 chapters, like, I think almost every single chapter, aside from 1 or 2, really do go on and on. Like, you know, like, you are not losing content here. And, like, yeah, some of them go on and on in bad ways, but in other ways, like, some of them go on and on in, like, this is going to be a complete chapter. We're not skimping you on content here. And, yeah, Yakuza 5 is slightly bloated, but, like, honestly, I kind of just love the bloat. Because, like, a lot of the bloat there is stuff which I really like doing in the game. See, I got the other red heat action. I had to, like, delete my health to get it. And whenever Kiryu drinks, like, the item which, like, deletes your health, it sounds like he's moaning. He's just like, But yeah, no. And also the story of Yakuza 5, I think it has like really high highs and really low lows. Just like Shinada's like section in this game is probably like one of my favorite Yakuza stories in the entire franchise. Maybe like my favorite story in the franchise. I don't even know. It's incredible. Just like, I think they do everything right. The side characters are really entertaining. Like, you're like the buddy guy who like keeps hassling you for money. I just fucking love that guy. I think he's very similar to like Sagawa in Yakuza 8. And I also really like Sagawa in Yakuza. Just like this weird kind of pushy handler guy. I think those archetypes just kind of always work, because I think in Like a Dragon Gaiden, you kind of have a similar setup, except the guy's not as sassy. And like that whole relationship works. And then they kind of squander it in the 8th game, but we don't talk about that. But yeah, no. Still like a really dope fight, though because of Yakuza 5's combat, I am considering maybe putting like 1 or 2 other fights above it. I mean, for one, I'm always going to think the Ishin fight is better. Like, the Ishin fight for the longest time has been my favorite final boss fight in the entire franchise. And what do you know it? It's about to show up right now, but I really do have to specify. When I say the Ishin final boss fight, I mean the original, because in the remaster, they replaced this actor with Shibusawa, and he does not deliver this, like, dynamic intro nearly as hard as this guy. You gotta listen to this.
俺にもわからねえ。お前とまた戦えると思うだけで心が躍る。待っている間に若返っちまったようだ。後悔はなしだぜ、兄弟。忘れちまったな、後悔なんて言葉は。来い。龍馬、行くぞ、竹地。
This final boss fight we're fighting here is a mocap guy, and for this first phase, we tire drop him, and then we do this combo, and that's basically what I'm going to do the entire first phase there. So just keep it simple with a single sword style, but yeah, no, I don't know who the mocap actor is, but he's phenomenal, and like he's just become more phenomenal because he's been replaced with Shibusawa in like the version that's available in English, like the Like a Dragon Kiwami, like Ishin or whatever. He's been replaced with Shibusawa, and Shibusawa just does not deliver the line with the same gravitas, because like in this game, he's like, Ryoma! Well, like, Shibusawa is all like, Ryoma! Like, I don't know, just like, it's such a downgrade. Like, it actually makes the fight worse in retrospect. And there's other touches in that new fight which I don't fuck with as much. For one, like, every single phase he's in has a different colored heat aura, while in this one, I'm pretty sure it always stays white. Wait, I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, like, the colors he gets later on are just kind of goofy. He gets, like, green, he gets red, and then he gets, like, laser attacks. Like, every single boss fight in Ishin just gets, like, these brand new, like, laser attacks, which are kind of inspired by the card system of that game. And for this fight specifically, it just feels so out of place. But yeah, no, this is probably my favorite final boss fight in the Yakuza series. And really the only fight that I think gives it competition is honestly the new one from Gaiden or Yakuza 5. Like, maybe those fights are better. Like, the one thing which kind of makes me doubt this fight is just the second phase. The second phase is just kind of a complete crapshoot. You're just always dodging your attacks. You can't really block them because he has the gun. Well, actually, you are allowed to block the gun. It's just that actually attacking this guy is just like, I don't know of any consistent way to do it. I basically just like abuse this game's parry system. Ishin has like a combat system that like, if you really wanted to, you can just play without thinking, because you can just like parry with the hand-to-hand style, take advantage of the invulnerability, and just kind of do that. And honestly, that is kind of what I do here. I just kind of, you know, I use gun, I use the wild dance style. I parry, I take advantage of the invulnerability to just kind of, you know, do some attacks with wild dance style. I kind of wait for him to be open a little bit there and just I'm trying to make sure that that attack ends up paying off, but for the most part, I am just going to hand-to-hand style, pairing, and going from there. But you still have to watch out with this guy's gun attacks, because this guy's gun attacks can come out very fast, and there's really like, there is warnings, but you have to like actually be prepared for them. You actually have to like time your dodges well. But yeah, no, this phase is gonna take a while just because I did not play it in like the best way possible. But yeah, no, I used to rate this game really highly, but after playing like that remaster, it kind of makes me wonder, is this game actually like that good? But like really, it's just like aspects of the original which I just like a lot more than the remaster. Just for one, like the remaster, like the combat system, it's been made slightly faster, but it just feels off because like the boss fights have so much more super armor now. And mind you, this phase has a bunch of super armor, but like every single fight in like Ishin Kiwami has super armor. And the worst part is that they got rid of one of the more useful features from this original Ishin. It's like something which like Yakuza, like Ishin, Yakuza 0, and I also think maybe 5 has this, I'm not 100% sure. But basically, I think when you attack an enemy that's in the middle of an attack, like there will be like a white flash indicator. This was also in Kiwami 1. There'll be like a white flash indicator, like indicating that this enemy is going to attack you, and you are attacking them and you can't interrupt the attack. Like whenever you fought like Mr. Shakedown, like you would see that a lot, because every single thing they do is like invulnerable. But for some reason, once we hit the Dragon Engine in Yakuza 6, that like little feature, that little visual detail has never returned. So then when Ishin just gets remastered in Unreal 4, and the boss fights get more super armor, it's gone! That fucking little visual detail is completely gone. Despite the fact that you need it now more than ever in that fucking game. Because in Ishin Kiwami, you run into the situation where, like, if you abuse wild dance style too much, like, you know, you do, like, say, 3 wild dance style combos in a row, in the 4th combo, the enemy will just, like, the boss fight will just stop being stunned and just go into a super armor mode for, like, an undesignated amount of time. You know, you just kind of have to, like, poke at him until, like, you see that he's actually getting stunned, because I swear it is completely random. While in this game, like, it is much more concrete whether an enemy is stunned or not stunned. So you're just not dealing with bullshit half the time. But like in Ishin Kiwami, you are dealing with bullshit half the time, and you have less visual tells to rely on to like actually deal with it. If I actually had like that visual tell, you know, like if an enemy like enters this super armor state, and like every time I attack them, they have like the white flash indicator, it would be so fucking helpful. But no, it's just not there because fucking they didn't plan ahead that much. Oh, just like that actually pisses me off so much. There's like so many little things about like the Ishin Kiwami remaster that just kind of add up, and it's like, wow, why couldn't we just get the original game? Just no changes, no additions, no kuze, you know, like no extra costume. Just give me the original game, PS4, 1080p, 60 FPS. Because I'm pretty sure the only 60 FPS version of Ishin in English is on the PS5. Like fucking, could you imagine the Japanese players who also have access to this remaster, dude? Because it's like, if you only own a PS4 and you know you understand Japanese, this is the better version to play. It plays better, it flows better. A lot of the actors are just better in this original version. I mean, it's not like every replacement is like god awful, because like just a couple characters got replaced. Like Hayashi's not in the new one anymore. But I will say the replacement for Hayashi is just like very misguided. Awano plays like Hayashi's character now. And again, one of the worst things about like the Ishin Kiwami remasters is that there's just certain combat themes which you just get rid of. No, not exactly get rid of, but like certain fights, like they would have like the normal combat boss music playing, and they just like replace it with themes from other games. Like I don't know, when you get to the Awano fight, like Hayashi's fight in this game, but like it's Awano in like the new game, they just play Awano's boss fight music from Yakuza 0, but it does not fit that fight at all, because like Awano's boss fight theme in Yakuza 0 is super emotional, you know, because he like, you know, talks to Manjima, he just like breaks, like exposes his heart for a little bit, and like you're fighting this fight, it's like, oh my god, there's so much history and shit. But then like the guy in this game, the guy which Awano is playing, is a complete scumbag. There's nothing redeemable about him, but his music is like super emotional. It does not jive at all. It's just a terrible like mix-up. And also like when you fight Akiyama and Ryuji in Ishin, there's like this awesome combat theme which is just gone in in like the remaster, like they just play Yakuza 6 music instead. What the fuck are we doing here? And apparently the theme is still in the game if you play the climax battles in the remaster, but it's not in the main story. What the fuck are we doing here? And then there's like other additions, like Kanai in this game got replaced by Shimano. When you fight Shimano, they just play his Kiwami 1 theme. It's just like also like the themes they just steal from other games do not fit the instrumentation of this game, dude. Like it's a completely different like instrumentation. So like what the fuck are we doing here? However, the new music that was introduced in Ishin Kiwami, like the new theme for Mine, Saijima, Akiyama, Watase. Wait, no, Majima already had dope themes in Ishin, but like those new themes are incredible. I mean, that is one positive of like the remaster in comparison to the original game. But the thing which also drives me crazy about the remaster is that I don't even think it's like that much worse than the original game. It just is slightly worse in like every single like category, but only slightly. So like, you know, if you're recommending Ishin to someone, like I feel that's still the more convenient version to play because it's the only version in English. It's like the only version of the game. You don't need a guide to play. It's fucking, it drives me Looney Tunes, okay? I am the most tuned loony of them all when talking about Ishin Kiwami. Yeah, and I got so mad about the Ishin remaster, I forgot to talk about how beautiful the final boss fight music is. That used to be my favorite final boss fight music in the entire franchise, but honestly, I think the final boss fight music in Yakuza 8, I think edges it out slightly. That's got to be like the best battle track in the entire franchise. But the Ishin one is still strong too. Like the 3 phases are also beautiful, and this ginger beer made me bubble up too much again in my throat. But yeah, the strategy I'm doing for Laogui here, it's pretty cheap. I'm just kind of taking advantage of like the little infinite combos. Well, not like just infinite setups you can do here. You know, like I mean, I can throw him, and when I throw him, I can take advantage of just the pink phase, and then the pink phase. I mean, I'm doing heat actions there to deal a lot of damage. Oh, the bat is just super OP, because you just do one heat action, boom, it deals a ton of damage. It puts him on the ground, and you're gonna have like enough heat left over where you can just go into the pink phase and do this thing. This thing is just like stupid overpowered. You just go, meow, meow, meow. Like if you time it correctly, you can just infinite boss fights like this. Like I get kind of close here, but I just kind of mess up at the last part. Just not. I deliberately decide not to do it. Just like boom, once you get to the third phase, little heat action. If you're like on the first bar, do a stop, get a little heat back, go into the pink phase, swoosh, get in there again. Yakuza 0 is one I'm really interested in replaying, just because I know a lot of people hate the gear system. I just really like it. I think like for the 3 main styles, I think the gear system really works. It's in the legend styles where the gear system I think really starts annoying me. Like with Kiryu's like Dragon of Dojima style is like basically unusable on levels 1 and 2. Like 3 is the only time it's usable, and I still do not have that much fun with it. And Majima's style, once again, is just very slow on levels like 1 and 2, but it is like more usable. Just like, okay, Majima's like fighting style is still the most fun in this game. Like it showed up again in Kiwami 2, it showed up again in Gaiden, but it's just so much more annoying to play around with it in those games because they just limit your options. Like in Kiwami 2, you can't do like the most fun thing to do with Majima's like knife style in 0 is to pretty much like land like a, you know, like light, heavy, and if you land a heavy, you go into like this dash mode where you just run around like all frantic, and you can like dash into an enemy again and just repeat that to like infinity and just waste heat that way. And it was like the most fun thing about it. It's like the main defining thing about that style, and it just has not come back in any like tangible way. I'm pretty sure that's not in Gaiden. You can't do that in Gaiden. So just like, if they're ever going to do a Majima combat style again in that fashion, bring that back. That is easily the most fun thing about it. Without it, the combat system is just worthless, basically. Those combos are just like too finicky. But yeah, no, for Laogui, I mean, I did a little bit of combos there, here and there, but didn't really play around them too much. Once again, this Yakuza 0 no damage is also one of my earlier videos. I played it pretty safe. Didn't do anything too crazy. And also just Yakuza 0, the way it's built, you could kind of play it safe, but you can also get up to some very crazy stuff with the counters. Like, I've seen some combo videos of this game where they're able to like pretty much like rush parry like enemies flying away from you, because somehow that still counts as an attack. I guess kind of like in a similar way to how like Mine's healing animation, you can parry that. You can parry when enemies are like flying around. Like I've seen things where like, you know, using the quick change clothes, which for some reason only Kiryu can equip in this game, which I think was pretty dumb. I think Majima and Kiryu should have both had those because it improves the game tremendously. But basically what you can do is you can like do a beast attack which sends the enemy flying, switch to rush, and you can parry the enemy flying away because it counts as a collision. It's like, I've never done it before, but like, I've seen it happen, and it's just crazy. Honestly, Yakuza 0 has a lot of tech which I just do not understand. For like, I still do not understand how like Majima's breaker like counters still work. But yeah, in that first phase, I'm going to use the rush style, and then in this phase, I'm still going to use the rush style, and then in the last phase, I'm still going to use the rush style. Rush parries are just so goated in Yakuza 0 and like Kiwami 1. But yeah, no. I still do not understand how like Majima's breaker counters happen. Like, there's like this thing where with the breaker counter, where like once you're done with your finisher attack, you can do a little pose, and during that pose, if an enemy attacks you, you can like time a certain thing to do a counter against them. I have never done that. I think I've done that like once or twice by accident. I do not understand how that stuff works. It just confuses me. Like, it just doesn't feel natural to pull off. It's just like the conditions are like so tight. You know, not only do you need to do like a finisher attack, you need to like stay in a freeze position. You need to activate that, and during that freeze position, you need to be ready to counter anything the enemy throws at you. It's so specific that you never feel like you never feel like you should do it, but like it is possible. And if you want to have a stylish video, you know, maybe pull it off. But I straight up do not have any idea. There's like one of those counters, just you grab the enemy with your legs and just throw them. I've never done that. So yeah, no, just like, that is just completely mind-boggling, just like way beyond me. Just Yakuza 0 being my favorite. I mean, like, this is a game which a lot of people like hate people for having as their favorite. You know, it's like, oh, this is like the Reddit choice per se. But like, I don't think any of that like criticism could ever like hurt me, because like this game is just like it came at just the perfect time. Like, because when I got into Yakuza, I never elaborated on that, but yeah, no. I played Yakuza 4 on the PS3, I went halfway through the game, and after I got to Tanimura, I actually went back, emulated Yakuza's 1, 2, and then I bought Yakuza 3, beat all of that, and then I returned to Yakuza 4, returned to Tanimura section, beat Kiryu section, I finished all that up, and then I had to download Yakuza 5, because back then, the only version of Yakuza 5 you could play on the PS3 was like a digital download. There was no physical copy of the game, but you know, like, by the time I was getting to the series, like 2016 or something, so all those games were like readily available for me, but people who like been playing earlier, like, you know, Yakuza 5 came out in like 2012, and it came out in English in 2015. There were so many long waits, and like Yakuza 0, like in Japan, came out in like 2015, which I think makes it the better eye patch revenge game. I mean, yeah, the Phantom Pain and Yakuza 0 both came out the same year, and yeah, but like only in Japan. And I only played the Phantom Pain the year it came out. I did not play Yakuza 0, the Japanese version, when it came out, because I was not that insane then. I'm that insane now, but I was not that insane then. But yeah, no, this phase, you can't really combo too much. He always just seems to turn around. Like, the way that, like, the Yakuza 0 turnarounds work is very strange. I don't know, there's, like, certain attacks boss fights do where, like, if you parry, like, their second hit, like, you know, they'll, like, turn around. But if you parry, like, the final hit of their combo, they won't turn around. But, like, for this guy, he just always turns around in this phase, which just makes it, like, annoying. You can't really do too much with him, from what I understand. But, you know, after I was done with Yakuza 5, like, Yakuza 0 was gonna, like, the English version was gonna come out, like, in a month or two. It's just, like, it was such a crazy game. You know, you got, like 3 different combat styles for each character, the 80s setting, just, like, the variety with the combat styles as well, just, like, Majima's, like, new vibe in the game, just, oh my goodness, dude, it fucking blew me away. Like, yeah, it doesn't have the same ambition as, say, Yakuza 5 with the 5 hub worlds, but it just felt like everything great about Yakuza was just here, like, all at once. Like, is it a perfect game? No, the pacing could be a little bit lopsided every now and then. Not as bad as Yakuza 5, though, in Saijima's section, but, like, in the beginning, it kind of goes on for a while, but, like, oh, man, it was such a fucking visceral punch to, like, the system. Just in every single way. Like, yeah, I can understand why people would want to start with this game, because it's, like, it's just so incredible, it's, like, so, like, immediately, like, readily at the start, just, And the music in this fight is incredible, even though Shibusawa is kind of a lame character. Just, he doesn't really have that aura. He just kind of like info dumps about, oh yeah, my daddy died, and like Kiryu doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I don't give a fuck, dude. And then he's like, oh, we got to earn the dragon. It's like, okay, guess I'll earn the dragon then. I think I can understand like why people think Majima's story is more compelling in Zero, because it is, but also like I think people like underplay Kiryu's like story a little too much. They're like, oh, Kiryu's story sucks. Majima's the only good one. Like, dude, fucking. How is the story with, like, Kuze and Awano, like, the bad one? And also, like, I fuck with Tachibana heavy as well. Like, that is not a bad story. That's pretty epic. I fuck with it heavy. But, yeah, no. And also, Yakuza 0 is, like, the only game which has, like, a Yakuza who, like, actually commits sex trafficking, because, like, a lot of Yakuza do that. But, like, Yakuza 0 is, like, the only one to have, a character do that. And, yeah, he's a complete piece of shit. So, that's fun. Well, it's not exactly fun. That's a fucking terrible thing to do. But, like, you know, just that none of the games really, like, dealt with that. Because, you know, dealing with that would make everything really uncomfortable. And Yakuza 0 does make everything really uncomfortable. So there we go. Boom. Yeah, no, Kiwami 1 has to be the most Frankenstein beast of a game in this franchise. Just, like, 0 onwards. Like, the series just started taking, like, some really bad habits that I'm just not a fan of. The previous games have some Frankensteinish qualities. But, like, I think Kiwami 1 just takes it to a whole other level, which just kind of annoyed me and just kind of like inspired me to do like a little rant about it. You know, just like a short little rant, which I did not know how to audio edit. I just did not know how to like edit audio levels for my Kiwami rant, so like a lot of the stuff just hits the red. I do not do that anymore. I try to like balance my stuff out, so like even if I'm screaming really loud, you know, like there's my iconic I'm on the edge of my seat scream, you know, like it would always hit the red. So and before I didn't audio balance it, but now I do balance it, so even if it's really loud, it won't like break your earphones or anything. But yeah, this fight is pretty dope. I mean, like using like his combat style from Zero, but also taking some moves from Joji Kazuma is like a little strange, but I think it fits pretty well here. The new rendition of his theme is super epic. I'm still a bigger fan of the more chill theme from the first game, but like this one's got a ton of gravitas. The flashbacks work really well. But one thing which does kind of like, just my attempt, the thing that I've noticed about my old attempt here is that I had equipment equipped and I did not realize it until I got this no damage and I didn't feel like redoing it. But yeah, no, that's how I was able to deal so much damage, is I had that equipment on, which gave me like that little extra boost. Though the damage once you're fully upgraded and like Kiwami 1, even without equipment, is still like completely busted, especially if you do like the whole rush thing where you like charge your attack, hit, and then do like little climax heat action, like when the enemies are like healing their health. It's still busted, but like it was slightly more busted in this fight, and I didn't want to do that to Nishiki. I had that equipment on because I was pretty sure I was fighting like Jingu, and Jingu in this game is like awful. Like it's like incredible how they made the fight even more frustrating than the original game. Like for the most part, like I mean, oh actually that's a funny thing though. Kiwami 1 makes a lot of the original fights more frustrating aside from like a few. Arase is definitely worse in the original game. Just in this game, he's not as bad because it's borderline the same fight. He has like the same moveset, but you just have like more versatility with how to deal with him. But like Shimano, leagues more annoying in this game. Mind you, Shimano was kind of a pushover in the original. Hayashi, I mean Hayashi was not like that fun in the original. I mean he had like some moves that could be pretty annoying. But he's even worse here. He's copying Baba, but like with a league's more hyper armor, like super armor. Like, why don't you have an original moveset, man? None of the characters here have original movesets. It drives me nuts. Like, not a single fight is original in this game. And even if they were original, just like a lot of the ways that these fights are coded just are not fun to play. There's also just a lot of group fights in this one. But mind you, remaking Yakuza 1, the original also had a lot of group fights, but it's just like, and yeah, like the group fights in Yakuza 1, they could range from like pretty cool to not that cool. Like the gun one is very annoying in the original game, and it's worse here because it carries over some of the design stuff from Yakuza 0 because it's basically just an expansion pack of Zero with like Kiwami 1 in it. Like Kiwami 1 is probably the most low budget game in the series because it was kind of like a thing they could like pop out before Yakuza 6 came out, which is like the game which like with wholly original assets and like, you know, the biggest production value, a whole new engine. Kiwami 1, I think, can only really exist because Yakuza 0 was already remaking huge sections of the original game just because they're just redoing them, but like in like a new prequel style. They could just kind of take that and go, okay, let's just make it Kiwami 1 now. But yeah, no, Yakuza 6, it was pretty disappointing in like some aspects, but like in retrospect, there's a lot which I do appreciate about this game. For one, every single boss fight has an original moveset. And the saddest thing is like, none of the games after 6 ever do this again. And it's like, what the fuck? Every single game after 6, like there's just a bunch of boss fights which like just have copied movesets. It just drives me, like once again, this is another Looney Tunes thing. I just wish that like, you know, all these original movesets were in a game with like a better combat system because so I could like really appreciate it because the Yakuza 6 combat system I don't think is like fully there. I mean, it's really fun. There's a lot to it and it does have like a higher skill ceiling than like Yakuza 5 for cool combo stuff. But we kind of have to like face the facts here. Yakuza is not built to do like full combo mads. Those are not the purpose. That's not the purpose of these games. It's fun that we can do them, but like once you're fully upgraded in like these games, you just demolish enemies with like 1 or 2 heat action. That's like the majority of like how most players play these games. The no damage to like, you know, combo mad community for Yakuza is the nichest of niche communities. And yeah, I mean, I am part of it and I'm going to continue like, you know, supporting the niche community and all that. But like, it really is like a niche subsection of Yakuza gameplay because it's just like these games just are not designed for it. It's just like very like silly. It's like kind of inconsistent in areas, but it is fun. As long as it's fun, it's all good. But just like, oh my goodness. But now, Yakuza 6 has wholly original boss fights for like every encounter. Someya's moveset is original. The one chef guy you fight in the stealth, the one chef mini-boss that you fight in like one of the long battles of this game, he has an original moveset, which then gets copied over and over again in every single Dragon Engine game after this one. Like this game, you know, I mean, like it being fully original does kind of limit it in certain areas, and also the super high production value. Like I guess they kind of skimped on certain other things. Like I don't even think it's really like a short game per se or like low effort, but Yakuza does kind of have this thing where, you know, the first time they do something, it'll be kind of like slightly rough around the edges, and then like the sequel already has like that base that they can build off of, which just allows them to improve on a ton of stuff. Like the original Yakuza 1 comes out, okay, rough but good, and then Yakuza 2 comes out and it just improves on everything just because it already has that base that Yakuza 1 like spent so much time building, you know? And I guess something similar is kind of happening with Yakuza 6 here, even though I don't think like Kiwami 2 is like that much better than Yakuza 6. I mean, I still think Kiwami 2 is like combat is better, but I gotta replay both games back to back and like you just really see it. And in a release date sense, the games came out back to back. Sometimes I kind of get lost on which game came out like first. Like, did Kurohyou 2 come out before or after Dead Souls? It came out after Dead Souls. Did it come out before or after 5? It came out before 5. And sometimes like, did Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise come out before or after Kiwami 2? It was after. But I actually played Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise before Kiwami 2. I imported a Japanese copy because the game looked so cool, and I was like, okay, this is probably not going to get translated to English. And then once I was done with the Japanese copy of Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, I jumped on Kiwami 2 when it came out in English. And it was just kind of like, oh. Like, the change from that game's really smooth combat system at 60 FPS to, like, Kiwami 2's, like, Dragon Engine, physics, 30 FPS, it was not a smooth transition at all. It was actually very disappointing. I really hope the tactics I was doing in, like, Yakuza 6 here, like, in this footage, makes sense, because I was just rambling about, like, my issues with the transition to the Dragon Engine and all that. I hope that all made sense. But yeah, like Iwami, you just gotta keep away from him. I was kind of doing like the charge attack strategy with like the grab combos. Once you do like a grab combo, I try to like do a quick step attack like near the cars, like near like a wall to kind of keep him up against that wall. I go into the extreme heat mode to do like a full extreme heat mode combo. You know, once he hits heat mode, do a couple heat actions. Like once he's in heat mode, he just kind of like retaliates to most things. And yeah, this Kiwami 2 video, so I alluded to this before, but I think that my original like Yakuza Kiwami 2 all boss fights no damage video may be the worst video I've ever put out. Like just because of my gameplay. Like, I mean, I do have my issues with Kiwami 2's combat system. I do like the original game better, but I think the gameplay I did in my no damage was just me refusing to be stylish out of spite. Like, really, it's just my ego took over, and I refused to acknowledge that I could have done that video better, and I instead did this very, like, cheap strategy where I just kind of break their guard, and then I do quick step attacks, like, for infinity, or for as long as the game lets me. And that's pretty much how I did it. And yeah, there's a lot of frustrating things with Kiwami 2's combat system and doing like some of the more elaborate combos per se, but this is very much dated. I think it was even dated at the time. And another thing which just kind of makes me look back on this like no damage video in a bad light is that it's also like the worst looking one I've ever produced. Like I was playing it on my laptop. My laptop could not run this game well at all. I mean, I played on my laptop because it was like 60 FPS, and while playing it, it was 60 FPS, but then the footage gets recorded, and like the footage could not handle all the 60 FPS, so it just came out kind of chunky. You know, like I had to lower the graphics to even get it to this point, and the point which it's at is still not that smooth. So like compared to like all the other videos I've recorded, this is like the most ugly one I've done. Okay, like the Yakuza 7 one's a little bit uglier, but at the very least with Yakuza 7, you know, like that's like a newer game, and honestly, if I did not play it on PC, I don't think I would have been able to handle all the grinding I had to do. Because you do have to grind a lot for like no damages for the turn-based games on their hardest like New Game Plus difficulties. But yeah, no, just I really do miss like all the original movesets in Yakuza 6 because like in every single other game there's just like a big asterisk to the boss fights. You know, because right after Yakuza 6, Kiwami 2, and what do you know? A majority of the boss fights don't have original movesets. I mean, Ryuji kind of has an original moveset, but he also just steals a couple moves from certain other boss fights, so he's very much like Nishiki and Kiwami 1 in that sense. But a majority of all the other fights are just reused movesets. You know, Hayashi, reused moveset, it's Baba again, with like slight variations. And then with Shindo, it's an Ishin moveset. Like, see, that's what worries me about a Kenzan Kiwami, is that what if they do a Kenzan Kiwami and like every single boss fight is just like a moveset from Ishin? Because like I do not want that, because like Kenzan and Ishin feel like such different games, and it's so beautiful their differences. But basically for this little like infinite combo here, you do not want to splat Ryuji against the wall. That's kind of the main thing. One, you kind of have to like do the whole guard break beast like attack animation. It has to like land a certain way. and then you have to like be able to like dodge cancel out of it a certain way, and then you have to keep rhythm. And while keeping rhythm, you have to make sure he does not hit a wall at any point, because if he hits a wall, it's pretty much game over. You have to like consistently have him like, you know, flailing against thin air, because, you know, don't keep him too close to any of these walls, because, you know, if you do, it's pretty much game over there. So yeah, just a lot of Kiwami 2's boss fights, complete, like, you know, reused movesets. And then, you know, you have Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, which actually has original movesets now that I'm thinking about it. So that was kind of like a beacon, a shining beacon, you know, like, oh, you know, I mean, Kiwami 2, it's a remake, but you know, Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, it's a spin-off, they can do original movesets. Hell yeah. But then we get to Judgment, and it's like, Judgment had so much hype behind it, you know, it's like, it's gonna be a new IP, it's gonna be different from Yakuza, you know, we spent 3 years making it, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, they're cooking with this one. So, you know, it gets revealed, and it's basically just another Yakuza game with, like, slight detective elements. It's like, okay, I like Yakuza, I'm down for another Yakuza, but imagine my disappointment when I find out that a majority of Judgment's boss fights are completely reused. Like, what's the excuse here now? Like, this is a new game, this is a new IP, these are brand new characters in the same setting, mind you, but, like, it's a completely new story, it's not a remake, why are we still cutting corners here, you know? It was fucking... Oh, another thing that drives me Looney Tunes. There's a few original movesets in Judgment. You know, like fucking... I think the big guy, Ozaki, has one. You know, the final boss has one, thankfully. The final boss is awesome in, like, Judgment. Higashi has one, except for, like, his knife moveset. His knife moveset, I'm pretty sure he ripped off from someone else. But, like, his hand-to-hand style is pretty original. But yeah, no, just every single boss fight besides, like, those are completely reused movesets. Why are we cutting corners now? It's even worse in Judgment, because, like, at least in the Kiwami games, you know, like... No, okay. It sucks in the Kiwami games as well, but, like, what really annoys me about Judgment doing this is that it just removes personality from the characters. You know, like, I mean, Hamura's a great... It hurts more because Judgment's such a great story. It's probably, like, one of my favorite stories in the entire franchise. And Hamura is such a great villain in it, and you finally get to fight him, only to find out he uses that bitch-ass moveset from Yakuza 5 from that bald fucker. Like, what? This is supposed to be, like, one of the most climactic moments in the game, and he's using, like, the most basic of basic movesets imaginable. It just sucks out, like, all the excitement, because it's like, dude, I know that moveset, and the moveset you stole that from wasn't even that impressive. It's like, what the fuck, dude? And I'm just not talking about this one boss fight here. Okay, so the final boss fight of Fist of North Star Lost Paradise, I don't really like this character matchup, but, like, the theme is amazing, the setting is amazing, and this is also, like, one of the only, like, fun gun boss fights aside from Andre, like, Richardson. Like, one thing I will mention is that, like, basically Andre Richardson's moveset is really fun to fight against in Yakuza 3, but, like, every single time it gets copied in, like, a new game, especially in the Dragon Engine, it's, like, the most infuriating thing to deal with. It's, like, literally only fun to play against in Yakuza 3. Which is just a very strange phenomenon. Just like the Yakuza 3 bounding system just fits that combat style so well. And I would still say that the Andre, like, Richardson boss fight is better than this one, because it's just more fair. This boss fight is, like, mostly, like, technically sound, but there's, like, one or two attacks that he just straight up doesn't telegraph. I don't know what their telegraph is, and it fucking sucks the fun out of it. And this fight, I'm playing on the Canon difficulty, which was, like, a really fun, like, concept for a difficulty mode. Basically, like, Fist of North Star Lost Paradise has, like, the normal difficulties you'd expect in a Yakuza game, like, easy, normal, hard, X hard. And then you have this Canon mode, where basically, like, every single boss fight, just, like, they're scaled up to, like, what they would be scaled up in, like, a power scaling sense. Because, you know, in the game, normally, you know, every boss fight just gets progressively harder, but here, you know, the first guy you fight has, like, one of the highest, like, health bars, just because he's, like, one of the strongest people, like, in universe. And then when you fight a guy who's, like, way weaker in that universe, he has a smaller health bar. However, this guy still gets, like, the most maximum health bar of them all, just because he's the final boss, and he's, like, robot or whatever. But yeah, on Canon difficulty, you cannot restart, like, boss fights. You have to restart from a save, so I played him really cheap, because every time you die to that guy, you have to redo the entire level over again. And yeah, I mean, the way I did that, I don't think that holds up to my current standards. I would probably try to do something more stylish there, especially since Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise has a ton of potential for, like, stylish stuff. But I kind of cheesed out there. I basically just relied on a bunch of heat actions, basically like the super mode, to pretty much carry me through that, because those things are really overpowered in that game. I was pulling out talismans, dude. But yeah, no, if I were to redo, I really want that game to come to PC so I can do, like, a Roblox version of, like, the Fist of North Star, like, Lost Paradise. Just so I can do better with the combat system in that game, because there's, like, so much to explore, and I really do not think I did it as stylishly as I could. Yeah, here is Judgment, except I'm playing a Chinese copy of, and it's called Judge Eyes. And it's on the original PS4, so it kind of looks like it runs like ass. Just like, I think Judge Eyes may be the worst running of the Dragon Engine titles, like by far. Just like it's like a mix of, I guess like it chugs like slower than the other games, and just the combat system in general isn't as fast as like Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2. It's like a little bit more methodical with the way you like deal out attacks. Just the speed of Crane just is a little bit too slow. So mix that with like a slightly worse performance. It feels like there's just a bit of delay on the PS4 version. I played the remaster on PS5, which runs at a smooth 60 FPS, and it's like all those issues go away, but like Judgment just feels like a very heavy game. Though this combat system is still a huge improvement over Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2. It's just like a little bit more gamey. You also have like one style that's specifically made to break the blocks. One of the annoying things about Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2 is that when you're like fighting an enemy and like the enemy blocks your attack bounces off of them. You have like this recoil animation. You like stagger for a little bit, you're like, ugh. And it's just ugly. It just feels ugly to play because like basically once you stagger off an enemy block, the next attack you do is delayed by like a second or two or like 3 seconds. And it's just like, ugh. There was like a certain up. Oh, wait, actually check this out. This is like the coolest thing ever. I do want to keep rambling about reused movesets, but I kind of have to talk about this fight. So here, I kind of Tiger Drop his big mortal reversal. But yeah, no, this moveset is easily the hardest to fight in the game. Because like every single boss fight in Judgment, they kind of follow this like rule set where you can kind of abuse them when they're getting up for the most part. Kurohyou completely breaks that because like when he's laying down, he has a get up attack. And just a lot, he has so many different counters for so many different things. He's like terrifying to fight. And he's also like a terrifying character. It's just like a perfect mix of like gameplay and story together. But like, I mean, you could abuse like that he tries to do like a reversal attack every single time he gets up. Like that, and I do abuse it. I got put in a really weird situation where like his body floated towards me and I was standing on top of the body at the same time. Just a little like Dragon Engine glitch there. But yeah, no, like this guy's terrifying to fight because sometimes you'll like try to do an attack and you'll just like that sliding counter. He can like parry you like it's fucking Yakuza 4. There's like so many things he can do that like none of the other boss fights can do, which makes him like leagues harder to fight. So it does kind of feel like you're slightly limited with like what you can do against him. But also like for a final boss fight, like he brings the challenge in comparison to like everything else you've been fighting in the game. As long as you did not upgrade your attack. That's the one thing about the Judgment games, like Judgment and Lost Judgment, is that if you upgrade your attack to like level 3 or something, you just break the game. It's like way too easy. But the great thing is you have literally no reason to. It's like I love how much like the upgrade system in Judgment, like the best upgrade systems in this franchise is Yakuza 4 and the Judgment games. Like that style of like upgrades is the best ever, and I'm just really sad whenever they like change it to something else. Literally just let me choose what upgrades I want from a big list of stuff. That's the best way to handle it. Like, there is no better way of handling it. And, like, the reason I really like Judgment is because the attack upgrades are completely separate from anything else you get in the game. And in this game, it's only 3 of them. And you can completely avoid them and spend your points on stuff that's actually good. You can just play with the base attack, which is already high enough, like, for the most part. Unless you're, like, fighting a Mon or something. But, like, it really is, like, already as high as you would want it to be. You don't need to upgrade it any further. Unless you want to, like, steamroll through the game. But, like, some people may not know that on their first playthrough, but I'm just letting you know right now, yeah, you don't do that. Also, this first and second phase of the fight, well, I mean, it's more like 2 separate fights, but you fight the same guy. I did them, like, you know, I did not do them in one take. I will mention that right now. I did edit it to kind of look like one take, but it is not one take. Also, I did this on hard. Yeah, no, because, like, they're, like, 2 separate fights, you know? I mean, even on hard, like, you know, when you redo this, you redo it from this point. You know, like, I mean, but you could kind of consider it like one big boss fight where he has like 8 health bars. But yeah, no, this guy's pretty insane. But yeah, moving on from Judgment, you know, like the reused moveset is a kind of an issue. You know, like, is there never going to be a Yakuza game with like original movesets? And it's like, Alright, here we go. The next Yakuza game is gonna be turn-based. Honestly, like, the turn-based decision is just kind of very ironic. Because I was having issues like the real-time combat system of like Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2. And even Judgment to a certain degree. There's like a little bit of awkwardness, which I don't think they've fully ironed out yet. So I was like, how are they gonna fix it? And it's like, we're just not going to. We're just gonna go turn-based. And also, just like the way they revealed that the game was going to be turn-based was also very silly, because there was like an April Fool's video where like I assumed they were like showing off like a side mode you could do, which was gonna be turn-based. Like, okay, this is gonna be like a side activity, which you would have turn-based combat, but that's not what the real combat's gonna look like. And then like a couple weeks before they like showed it off at E3 or something, they're like, oh yeah, no, the combat's gonna be turn-based now. It's like, what? It's like, oh yeah, no, the April Fool's video is actually real. And also, there was like this whole thing where like I think Nagoshi would like said that, oh yeah, after the April Fool's video, we originally Yakuza 7 was gonna be like real-time combat, but after like the April Fool's video, I just wanted it to make it turn-based, and we didn't have that much time to make it turn-based, so we kind of rushed it. But then after like Nagoshi left the company, like Sega, and did like his own thing, he did that like somewhat recently, like a year or so ago. The other like main producer of the series, like Yokohama, I think that's what his name is. Said, oh, Nagoshi was fucking around. That was a joke. That's not true. 7 was supposed to be turn-based from the very beginning. Anyways, here's the beta of Yakuza 7. I'm just kidding. This is Streets of Kamurocho. It was like a little promotional game that was released on Steam for a short amount of time, for free, promoting Yakuza 7 like coming out in English, but it's not called Yakuza 7 in English. It's called Yakuza Like a Dragon. They basically just like reskinned Streets of Rage 2, but put some, with Yakuza stuff. Every single enemy here is just copied like wholesale from like the first level of Streets of Rage 2, but with a Yakuza skin. Like the boss fight of like the first level of Streets of Rage 2, that's who Nishiki is. And also all the enemy types are just like copied over, but like reskinned, like that guy's kind of dressed like a guy you fight in Kiwami 1. The purple guy, I'm sure that guy's like an enemy type like in one of the Yakuza games. I can't really put my finger on which one though. Maybe Kiwami 1, maybe Yakuza 0. But yeah, my strategy for this guy is that Nishi's moveset here, at least the guy he's copying from Streets of Rage 2, is a complete asshole. So I was trying to take out all the enemies around Nishiki before activating Nishiki, but I accidentally activated Nishiki. But thankfully, I don't have to go far enough to activate the purple guy, but you just need to defeat Nishiki in this room, and like all the other enemies get defeated as well. But you want to defeat the other enemies because, you want to deal with Nishiki one-on-one, and the only way to deal with him is just do like that big uppercut attack. I forgot how you do it in this game. I think you have to like tap forward like twice and then press the attack button, but that's like really the only consistent way I found of like doing no damage to that guy, because if you try to do normal combos, his punch reach is longer than yours, and he can super armor through a lot of attacks at weird times. So really my only consistent, and also you can dodge it, you can go like up and down, so he's just a real hassle to deal with. Anyways, the first turn-based battle of this video, and also the first time where like one time code has 2 different difficulties. What I mean by look at the time code, look at the description. What I mean by Yakuza 7 Hard and Legend is that this Tendo fight was done on Hard, but the fight after this one, like the actual final boss, was done on Legend, because that one was much easier and I was able to do it on Legend. But the reason I had to do this guy on Hard is because if you upgrade to level 99, like normally without doing anything too crazy, you still cannot no damage this guy on Legend, because your agility stat is not high enough to dodge his attacks. Because pretty much the way no damage works in this game is you need to have like your agility like cracked enough that you can dodge everything. And also you have to like spam quickness lemonades. You have to like use Ares like ability, like the photo blind, to blind the enemy along with your increased agility, and you have to dodge every single attack. That's how it works. And there's like there's like 1 or 2 rare fights where you need to just kill the enemy before he does anything, but every single other fight operates on the logic that you have to like dodge everything they do towards you. And the thing is, playing this game normally, you're never going to level up your stats to a point where you're going to be able to do that against Tendo on Legend difficulty. However, on my Roblox 7 video, where I replaced all the character models with Roblox, I opened up a cheat engine and pretty much increased every single party member's agility stat to like 9,999. And when you have the agility stat completely maxed forever, like, all the other stats the same, everything else normal, just agility to its absolute maximum degree that it could ever possibly be, you can no damage this guy on Legend. You can dodge his attacks. But if you don't do that, it's impossible. And the thing is, like, normally the amount of grinding you would have to do to get every single party member to agility like 999, I forget how this game does its numbers. I don't know if it does it like in the thousands or in just the hundreds. But yeah, no, to have max agility, like, you know, just leveling everyone to level 99 and every single job to level 99 is not going to get you max agility no matter what you do. So you need to use the stat boosters. And the way you get the stat booster is just like, you know, you could get it from like the garbage recycling minigame, just grinding that a whole bunch, getting a bunch of points there. But you would have to buy a shit ton of those agility boosters, and also just the time it takes to like give each character an individual agility booster like every single time to get them to that agility level is also a task in its own right. It takes like 2 to 3 hours of just pressing X over and over and over and over just to like, you know, feed them like their little like potion to allow them to know damage like the later sections of this game. So yeah, no. If you spend like fucking 400 hours of in-game time grinding like the bicycle minigame, you can no damage this game without any cheating. But I decided to do a cheat engine to kind of answer like a what if question. Like, okay, what if my agility was at max? Can I no damage the boss fights in this game on Legend? And the answer is yes, but also no, because even if you do that with the cheat engine, there's still like 1 or 2 fights in the original 7 that are still impossible on Legend. I think Jujin Han may still be impossible just because his first attack is just unavoidable. Like the little gun attack he does, like it just doesn't work on like the dodge system at all. He's just always gonna land it because it's like an AoE. It's fucked up like that. Like the only other boss fights which have attacks like that is like the cranes. The cranes, like you don't need a high agility stat for that. The cranes you can do on Legend without doing anything too crazy, except having like really high attack, because you just need to kill it before it can like do anything like dangerous. Like something which I really wish this game did was, okay, you have like the perfect guard system. I really wish the perfect guard system allowed you to do like a tiger drop of some sort. You know, make like the counters actually skill based. But all the perfect guards do in this game is just you take less damage and you don't get stunned, or like you don't get like any like ailments like added onto you, I think. But like, I mean, I wish there was like an upgrade where you can actually get like a tiger drop or dodge an attack. And you know what? The great thing is, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth kinda adds something like that, but it's an optional item that's very easy to miss. But it's this item called the Sea King's Talisman, which yeah, if you equip that on your character and you do a perfect guard, you just dodge the attack. That's exactly what I would have wanted for this series. You know, like, give me a skill-based way to avoid attacks, because yeah, no, like the way you do it in this game is just like stat management. You know, just leveling up to an obscene level and just hoping for the best. And also, like, you know, making sure everyone has like their agility like boosted at all times with like the quickness lemonade drink and all that. And that's basically how you handle everything with this Tendo fight. In fact, this Tendo fight is definitely one of the easier ones. But yeah, no, just without using cheat engine and without spending 300 hours to get your agility stat to the absolute max, the only way to no damage this guy is on hard. And on hard, you can dodge all his attacks pretty easily. And also, Joe Sawashiro is always a bitch. Just like, he has so many attacks that like do AoE damage, so like, I swear, like, sometimes the characters dodge his attacks, but like 99 out of 100 times they do not. So I was just struggling on Legend because like the characters refuse to dodge anything Joe Sawashiro does. And one thing about Yakuza 7 is that, on Legend, like in the end game, every single enemy has the most amount of health, because even this guy on hard is taking a fucking marathon to like dwindle his health bar. Like, just like Yakuza 7's like turn-based combat system just kind of stops being fun in the end game, just because it's just do your highest damage move. Just do your highest damage move for a certain amount of turns. If you run out of magic, heal up your magic, because doing like, standard attacks is basically pointless. Though this one boss fight, he does kind of spice things up because he has that one hit KO move. So you have to watch out for that, because if you don't prep for that like accordingly, you could kill Ichiban and then you have to like redo the entire dungeon again because there's no save points. I was actually surprised to find out that like, okay, there's like certain levels, there's certain dungeons in this game that come back in Lost Judgment, and I misremembered something because of Lost Judgment. I thought this game had save points because in Lost Judgment, some of its levels has save points before you do the boss fights. This game doesn't, even though this is the game that would benefit more from that change. It's like, Lost Judgment really doesn't need it per se, because even on Legend, because Lost Judgment on Legend, you can restart the boss fights without reloading a save point. So you don't really need the save point before the boss fights. You can just restart the fight. But this game, it would benefit me so much more, and it's just not there. Oh my goodness. But yeah, no, Yakuza 8 is a lot more lenient with save points in its big, long-ass dungeons. Because, like, this game is also, like, the final Millennium Tower level is so egregious with, like, how long it goes on with, like, basically 0 checkpoints. It's insane, because if you die at any point, like, either you have to, like, spend half of your fortune to revive, or just redo the entire thing all over again. And for no damage, I have like one retry, and then once I run out of money because I need money for summons, but once I run out of money, I basically have to go back and just like do the entire dungeon over again. And like that's not even speaking about True Millennium Tower. I was always so curious about whether the true final Joe mode is like no damageable with like high max agility, but just like actually going through the True Millennium Tower on Legend, at max difficulty was the most infuriating thing ever. But yeah, no, this fight I did do it on Legend without any like crazy cheat engine like adjusting agility like shenanigans, right? This is just me level 900, like level 99 with my jobs also at 99, just normally nothing too crazy beyond that with good equipment. So yeah, no, one item which I really do miss from this game is the special kimchi. There's like it's like the kimchi has this really weird property. It's like it says that it increases your turn speed. But basically, like, what it does in practice, it gives you, like, more turns, kind of. It's, like, a very abstract, like, thing. And it's very crazy that kimchi specifically is, like, the only item that does that for you, from what I understand. And I love this summon, because this summon, like, decreases the accuracy of enemies. I don't have anything like this in Yakuza 8. However, Yakuza 8 makes it easier to pretty much, like, inflict status ailments on, like, the boss fights. Like, it's much, much easier to, like, electrocute a boss fight to the point where they can't move. Or to like increase inflict like a fear stat so that they don't move. Well, in this game, you're not gonna have much luck doing that, or like getting anything too useful from that. Like the boss fights are just gonna move anyways. So you really have to like rely on lowering their accuracy and boosting your agility. Okay, I think I'm actually gonna get the kimchi here. So yeah, no, I'm setting up all my stats correctly, and then I'm just gonna spam the laser from here on out. And the lasers, I love the sync up here. Check this out. The Yakuza 7 soundtrack does have a habit of just occasionally sounding like the Yo Mama theme, like the Yo Mama like meme theme per se. If you ever heard that, there's a lot of tracks in this game that are actually pretty similar. Just very heavy on the dubstep, but there's still a lot of great tracks in this game, like despite all that. But Yakuza 7, I really enjoyed it. Like honestly, like the turn-based RPG structure, I think really fits like Yakuza's like open world design. This is like probably like one of my favorite turn-based RPGs just purely because I enjoy doing side content in Yakuza a lot more than say in a traditional RPG like Persona or Bravely Default. Just like those games, like the side content here just strikes better with me, exploring the world, just like the way Yakuza does like, hub world exploration, like all the details. Yokohama's a great hub. And also, I love the little feature this game adds where, like, pretty much, like, the entire map is, like, grayed out until you explore every little corner. That was so engaging, just, like, hooked me into the game even more. And just, like, I think, like, playing this game, I never had to grind for, like, main story stuff, on my first playthrough. And, yeah, there's, like, people are going to mention the Chapter 12 fight with Majima, but, like, I did not have to grind for that. I did have to do some side content for that, but not grind, I had to get the Masochistic Man summoned. That was super important for winning the fight when Saejima showed up. And I had to do the entire, like, Sultan Body Coliseum that gets introduced right before that battle. I had to do, like, the entire thing, like, all 30 floors, just to get more level ups. So I could kind of match up with, like, Majima and Saejima. I was, like, level 43, 44. And then I had a very challenging fight that took me, like, a couple times to retry. But, like, fair. I had to, like, actually strategize. It's, like, the Majima and, like, Saejima fight is, like, my second favorite fight in the game. Just because, like, it feels like the first time the game actually, like, challenged me a little bit. Because, like, everything before that was actually really easy. I didn't have to grind too much. I did a couple side quests. I got a couple summons. And, like, it was a cakewalk the entire game. Until that point where I actually had to, like, strategize. I had to, like, get a good setup going with, like, my team. And I was like, hell yeah. Honestly, like, the Majima and Saejima fight, I mentioned this in, like, every single video I do on Yakuza 7. But it feels kind of like a vertical slice of the entire game's, like, combat system. It's, like, it's the sort of thing they would show at an E3 tech demo to tell you, like, this is how the combat system works. It has, like, so many things. The flow of that fight is great. Majima. Then multiple Majima. He summons more of them. You defeat them. Saejima steps in, increases the challenge. You have to deal with that. There's the blade kill move. It's like, I love the pace of that fight. But the best fight in 7 is easily the Joe Sawashiro one. It's like the one that feels the most like a traditional like Yakuza boss fight. It has like 3 like, dynamic like phase shifts. He has 3 different phases. He like changes his weapons. But yeah, no, Jin Kuwana, this boss fight theme is incredible. Holy shit. I mean, when ranking the final boss fight themes, it's like, dude, the Ishin one, incredible. This one, Oh my goodness. Okay, when it comes to like ranking the final boss fights themselves, I am very, very tempted to like say that Jin Kawana is a better final boss fight than Kurohyou, but the thing is, I think Kurohyou may have the better like moveset and is a little bit more challenging and just kind of like challenges you to like do different things. But the Lost Judgment combat system is so much more fun that I just have a lot more fun fighting this game. And also like the Kurohyou like boss fight has like a better like little dynamic intro and like a dynamic sequence. The one here in this game feels a little bit underwhelming compared to like the Kurohyou one, but this fight is just so much more fun just because this combat system is so much more fun. Like, you know, like Judgment, I still had my doubts about Dragon Engine real-time combat, but then this game comes out and is easily my favorite combat system in the entire series. Like, holy shit, it's so smooth, it's so responsive, and it's like way faster than like anything we've ever had before. I mean, except for like Kiwami 1 Godspeed, but like the Godspeed stuff in Kiwami 1 was like so gimmicky. There was like actually no real reason to like use it unless you wanted to like, you know, be stylish or something. It was like actually absurdly fast, which, you know, I mean, I would like to see that come back in some capacity, just to like increase the skill ceiling of doing silly combos and all that, which are, you know, have no real utility, but are just fun to pull off and very cool to see in action. But Lost Judgment, just like the way you do speed boosts in this game, it just works for everyone. Like at the low skill ceiling, the high skill ceilings, getting speed boosts from the crane dodge is incredible. It's fucking amazing. And yeah, no, those. And just the theme here, the theme shift is awesome. It's just like the little choreography here is not as cool as the one which you do against Kurohyou, but still, oh my goodness, dude, this is so awesome. And also, this is one of the no damages I'm more proud of. Like, my juggles aren't like anything too insane, but I think I keep good pace with the boss fight. I do so many different heat actions in very quick succession, because like some of the earlier no damages of this guy, it could take like 10 minutes. And well, I will have to admit, I do have like 2 attack upgrades in this game, but in this game, you need like it's divided into 6 instead of 3. So getting 2 attack upgrades isn't as insane of a change as getting 2 of them in the first Judgment, but it still is a decent like damage boost. But honestly, I think it works out better because it helps the music sync up better. Like in my no damage here, I'm just going in on this guy. Like, oh, and also, like, I learned that in one of the phases of... Okay, so, like, in the first phase, Kawana here, every time he's, like, on the ground, he'll do, like, a sliding counter. So when you're doing juggles and he's, like, getting close to falling on the ground, you have to watch out for that. But I think someone told me that in the second phase here, he doesn't do that. Because, like, each phase, you know, the first phase is kind of copying, like, you know, the first time you fight him. The second phase is, like, copying, like, the second time you fight him. And I'm pretty sure that the second time you fight him, he doesn't do, like, you know, ground reversal heat act. Like, you know, ground reversal attacks. And I never knew that for the longest time, but yeah, no, just if I knew that earlier, I would have been able to do longer, I would have been more confident with my juggle combos. But once we reach the third phase here, this phase is kind of hell. He has like so many attacks that come out incredibly fast. He has like this one attack which has like a red heat thing, like whenever he like punches you, it's insanely fast. It's like no telegraph. He also has like the snake shoulder shrug thing there. It's like, oh, that is so fast as well. But yeah, no, I really do love this fight. It's like one of the most challenging ones to go through, especially like stylishly and like trying to do juggles and trying to keep pace with him and doing like different heat actions. But yeah, no, it's really awesome. I really do love it. But there was another thing I really wanted to mention. But yeah, no. So Yakuza 7, I did really enjoy it. And the first main story walkthrough didn't really have to grind. It wasn't too frustrating. But then again, you know, for no damage, I had to do an insane amount of grinding. And grinding to level 99 is a pain. It is a pain in the ass in 7. I mean, just grinding to level 99 in 7 and 8 are both pains in the ass. Like, it's just not fun. Like, little grinding routes you have to follow. Like, 7's grinding route is incredibly slow. 8 doesn't have a grinding route. You just go through the dungeons until you, like, level up. But there's no, like, good grinding route. It's fucking nuts. But, yeah, no. So, back to the reuse of movesets. How do you even judge that in 7? Like, you know, it's like, I think 7 has original movesets, but also, like, even if it was just reusing movesets again, it's an entirely different, like, style of combat and play that it wouldn't even really matter. So, the 7 just kind of feels like the cop-out, where it's just kind of like, yeah, I guess we're just not going to do real-time combat now in the Dragon Engine. Are you happy? And, you know, I was pretty happy playing 7, but it's like, oh, I guess the Dragon Engine's never gonna have better combat than the old engine, but this game just proved me wrong. It proved me so wrong. This is incredible. Just everything about it. Like, just, oh, this like gave me so much hope for like Yakuza moving forward. I think like just the combination of 7, Lost Judgment, is like, oh, whatever game comes next, it's gonna be incredible. I'm gonna be so like happy to go through it. And yeah, something similar kind of happens. A little bit of a drop-off point per se. Well, it's always more complicated than that. I don't know, I mean, like, I like to, like, paint this historical image where, like, Yakuza was amazing at this one point and then it went really bad at this other point, but, like, there was always more mixed than that. You know, like, there were ups and downs, you know, like, there were really high highs, there were really, not really low lows, but there were, like, slight lows here and there, you know? like the series wasn't perfect before, like, you know, Yakuza 5 or like after Yakuza 0. I guess the series wasn't perfect like before Yakuza 5, and it wasn't awful like after Yakuza 0. But you know, just watching this video, watching all the final boss fights of each game like back to back, just kind of like taking me through my chronological history with all these games. I'm like revisiting all that history. I'm reliving it, kind of just like remembering everything. It's very overwhelming. But yeah, let's get back to those reused movesets, because Lost Judgment takes an approach which is kind of middle of the road. Basically, one of my annoying things about Judgment is that there's like original characters which are reusing moves, original important characters to the main story, main villains who are reusing movesets from like previous games. That annoyed the shit out of me. It killed the hype of a lot of those like boss fights. So then Lost Judgment is like, okay, every single original character you have to fight, you know, like original important main character, main hero, main anti-hero, main villain, they will have original movesets. However, we're gonna fill up the rest of the game with like a bunch of nobodies, and those nobodies are gonna have reused movesets, and those nobodies are called the arcade members. So yeah, no, all the original fights are awesome in Lost Judgment, but then there's just like a guy with a pipe which is just reusing like Kuze's pipe moveset. It's like, oh, okay. So there's just like a fuck ton of arcade member fights, which is just kind of overwhelming, and yeah, those guys are reusing movesets. So that's kind of the disappointing aspect of Lost Judgment. And now for this Kaito Files DLC, despite the fact that there's like no like real side content, I think it's kind of weird to pay like $30 for this. But the story is fantastic. I actually like this game's story. I like the Kaito Files story better than the actual Lost Judgment story. Kaito himself is such a great protagonist in this. He's so smart and like resourceful. He's like so well managed. Like, and also just there's so much of Kaito Files like story is like taking a lot of bits from like the other games, but like doing it the best here. You know, like the main love interest in this game, I'm sure it's just like a combination of like all the love interests from before, but like all like combined to like a much better degree. You know, it's like combining all their traits into one character makes for a more well-realized, more like compelling, like, you know, like person. More, she's kind of an anti-hero in this. I love, like, I forgot her name though, but like Mikiko or something. I believe her name is Mikiko. But you know, she's amazing. I love her. She's like one of the best like female characters in the franchise. And this boss fight, this final boss fight, it's like he's awesome. He's not the most fun to play against because I swear like his moveset is kind of designed, like, you know, to kind of get in the way of Kaito. He just has a lot of things which are very inconvenient to deal with, but it's very similar to Kurohyou in that way, you know? Like his moveset kind of forces you to like, you know, adapt and all that. And also the dynamic intro, it's the only one in the game, but it's a pretty dope one. And the way the music syncs up to it is really great. But his boss fight theme, I am a little disappointed by it because like the beginning section with like the bells and like the build-up is great. But once we're actually in the theme, it just kind of, it becomes more atmospheric more than anything. It just doesn't really have that catchy of a hook or something. And like it is supposed to be like a threatening encounter, but like, hey, Kurohyou was also threatening, but this threat is just, it just kind of like, the theme just kind of like simmers down after a certain while. But yeah, the Kaito Files, the boss fights in it, a lot of them are reused movesets. Once again, you fight Mine in this game, and yeah, because it's Lost Judgment, it's fun to fight him. You actually fight him in Judgment. There's like a couple like side quest battles you can do in Judgment where the guy has Mine's moveset and it's utterly miserable. But because Lost Judgment's combat system is so much more fun, even when we're just using Yakuza 0 styles, it is actually fun to kind of fight Mine when you know how to counter him. The Mine guy is just like the Fortnite ninja guy. He has Mine's moveset for some bizarre reason. There's only like, I think there's only like 2 original movesets in this entire DLC. And it's pretty much the drunk guy and this guy. Because the guy with the sword is just copying like the original moveset of the beginning boss fight in Judgment. That's actually kind of insane. So the first Judgment has very, very little original movesets, but one of the original movesets is actually like the Perp Murase, which is weird because he's kind of a tutorial fight. You destroy him so easily that you don't even like notice that he has an original moveset. I kind of wish that like they gave someone else an original moveset instead of him, but yeah, no, someone in the Kaito Files just copies him. And yeah. So once again, yeah, no, like none of the combat games have really like done really well with just having original boss fights. It's all just reusing movesets, and honestly, like some of the bad habits of reusing movesets kind of reared their ugly head in Yakuza 0 because just you fight Awano and it's like, oh, that's just Watase again. Oh, with like 1 or 2 things differently. So I guess they were already experimenting with this and seeing what they could get away with, and then with Kiwami too, they went fucking balls out with fucking making their Frankenstein ass like reused moveset fucking boss fight design, which they just have not gotten rid of to this day. And I think the only game which kind of breaks it now is maybe Gaiden, but like, fuck, okay, so like, I think Gaiden follows a similar approach to Lost Judgment, but basically like every single like nothing character you fight is like using like a reused moveset, but I think all the original like characters do have original movesets. Like Suruno, his actor is very famous for kicking, so his moveset has a lot of kicks. That's pretty dope. The final boss fight of the game, completely original moveset there, right? Nishitani, original moveset, I believe. And also, finally, one of the Nishitanis has an original theme, though the whole Nishitani the Third shit was pretty fucking stupid in Gaiden. Like, there was literally no need to do that. He's a pretty nothing character. Like, he could have been literally anyone else. They just had to reference Zero for some bizarre reason, without really, like just zero referencing for the sake of zero referencing. Yeah, for this, like, you know, Kaito files here, I included, like, the final boss fight and also the fight before the final boss fight, just because I think the video would be naked without, like, that evil fight, like, before this fight, because that's the only fight with a dynamic intro, and also it's, like, the only fight that kind of feels like the final, the typical final boss fight of this game. So I decided to also include it alongside this guy, who's actually the final boss fight. Let me tell you, my heart kind of sank when I beat this guy. Then I found out later he's just copying Shibusawa's like first phase moveset. Because I really like fighting this guy. This guy's like awesome. I love this guy. And it was like, oh, this guy's just reusing a moveset. But honestly, I'm really sad that like the Shibusawa, like, you know, the first phase of his fight, like the one where it's like he has a really fast moveset, didn't get more time, because that's easily his best moveset. Like, to fight against, you know, it's like really challenging, it's like stupidly fast. It feels like a final boss fight, because once he goes into the third phase, you know, like his things slow down, you can't really combo him as much, so it's like, oh. And yeah, no, just fighting that moveset here in the Dragon Engine, in the Lost Judgment specifically, is actually really fun. And yeah, no, there's like this little infinite you can do here, we just keep slamming him and like doing this little grab combo here. And yeah, I was sad to hear that like Kaito would just be reusing the Yakuza 0 styles again. But like actually playing with these Yakuza 0 styles in Lost Judgment just gave me more faith in the Dragon Age. Just like, oh my goodness, these styles are actually more fun to play with than they kind of were in Yakuza 0. So it's like, oh my god, we really come a long way. This really is the best combat in the series by far. I just love it so much. I love it so much. But yeah, no. I guess Gaiden does a decent job with like original boss fights. It's just that the Gaiden is only 4 chapters long, so it kind of barely has any boss fights. It just kind of makes up for it by having a bunch of group fights, which no real original boss fight, which like kind of lasts a long time. Especially in the finale, they go fucking ham wild in the finale. Oh my goodness. But yeah, no, I've been so caught up in my tangents. I have not been talking strategy at all with these fights. But like, if you want a little bit more of my strategy with these fights, I would recommend watching the original videos which each of these fights are from. I mean, I kind of took this as an opportunity to just kind of do new commentary, but yeah, no, if you want like more specific info, just like check out my Lost Judgment, the Kaito Files, Legend, All Bosses, No Damage video, and in that commentary, I'm probably more specific about what I'm doing here. I mean, like one thing is that the counter system with like, you know, Bruiser, basically, the way you get speed boosts in this game is by pretty much like doing kind of a tiger drop of some sort. And a great way of bringing it out is just dodging into an enemy, taking advantage of the iframes which happen there. When the enemy's about to attack you, that's when you do it. So it's just really taking advantage of iframes with like your dodge there. Oh, and actually another great thing you can do is you can just keep pressing attack until like your counter comes out. You know, whenever the boss fight dodges you, you dodge them, you just keep attacking. And a lot of the time, like, you know, like the timing is just going to be really good. So you just take advantage of that and go from there. And yeah, just like this guy healing himself because he just loves like your chick so much. He like simps so much for it. It's so inspirational, dude. This guy's a legend. And also, he's voiced by Young Ye in the dub. And, like, you know, his voice for this character just sounds very similar to the Kiryu one, except he's, like, putting on, like, he's very much putting on a nerdy inflection to everything. So, like, he's talking the same way he talks as Kiryu, just with a slight nerdy inflection, like, actually, you can't do that. But, you know, just because it's his voice, you know. There's only so much you can do to change your voice, but it's really funny comparing the two performances because they're not that different. I mean, it is the same guy and all. Yeah, just Young Ye, just like he's just not that deep. Like his vocal cords don't go that deep for like Kiryu there, and it's not like Kiryu has like the deepest voice ever. But yeah, no. Young Ye is also in Inside Out 2, which I guess I'll be seeing at some point. I don't know when. I've heard it's worse than the first one, and the first one I think is like really good, but I don't like love it. I think like the first one just kind of gets wrapped up in just like, oh, we have to go explore this world to, you know, solve things, and we're gonna run into a bunch of kooky shenanigans. Like, a lot of Pixar movies just kind of fall into that little, like, territory these days, where it's just kind of like you have to go on this big journey through this world, and this journey is just gonna have, like, a lot of, like, little like side quests along the way. You just kind of end up doing that, you know, like, oh, Riley, her emotions are out of whack, so we have to go explore the Riley mind dimension because Sadness left and we have to go find her. So they just kind of dick around the entire time while doing their whole little quest. And like, yeah, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of how like the plot structures end up going. Like I think it's pretty like traditional and somewhat tropey, but there's a lot of great things about Inside Out. But the first movie, I just heard the second one's like a little bit more contrived. So that's a little bit sad to hear, because I thought the setup of the first one was also slightly contrived here and there. So I don't know if contrived is even the right word. Hey, look at me yapping about Pixar movies instead of the actual fight happening on screen. Oh, and this soundtrack is beautiful. And also, like, so Lost Judgment has like this credits theme that plays, and this theme is very similar to that theme, but like a slightly more combat rendition. But this combat rendition is still very calm. Just like this final boss fight is so different from like anything else we faced in the series, because there's like no real like a looming threat. It's like the most wholesome final boss fight in the series. It's kind of like fighting a clown at the end of like a Yakuza game just randomly, but it's awesome. They're just like, dude, check this out. If I included the Like a Dragon Ishin remaster which came out, it would be included at this part of the video, but I did not, so we're moving on to straight Gaiden's final boss. And this may be my favorite final boss in the entire franchise. Like, it's basically in competition with either Ishin's final boss or Yakuza 5's final boss, which, well, the Yakuza 5 final boss is the one that it's most similar to, but it's like, oh my god, it's just on a whole other level. It's like the theme, like the movement, just like the little combat here. Oh my goodness, dude. Just fighting this guy was crazy. Like, I really, and also, like, this no damage I'm very proud of. Like, I mean, I really went ham on this guy. My juggles aren't anything too crazy, and mind you, it's not like you can do anything too crazy in Gaiden. Like, honestly, doing crazy combos in Gaiden kind of requires you to, like, just, it's so suboptimal, like, doing, like, crazy juggles in Gaiden. You do, like, very little damage. You have to, like, put the serpent dash thing into, like, your juggles to, like, slightly change things up. It's very annoying. And, yeah, no, just, like, Gaiden just, like, it's, like, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. One thing which I really like about Gaiden here is that there's no buffer between heat actions. Because in some of the earlier games, you do a heat action and it takes like 4 to 5 seconds to be able to do another one. And that kind of annoyed me. It kind of ruined some of my plans. While here, you do a heat action and then you can immediately do the heat action once the heat action is done again. And there's only like 2 heat actions in the game which like break that rule. But for the most part, every single other heat action, you do it and then like you can immediately do another one once you're back in the gameplay. It's so satisfying because like in the earlier games that's how it worked, but then like at some point we kind of reached a level where we had to like wait a little bit. There was like a buffer between heat actions. I don't know why they did that. It just made things like slightly less fun and like just, you know, it was kind of weird judging when you were allowed to do the heat action again and all that. But for that first phase, I kind of destroy him like that. And for these next couple phases, I'm just going to be doing juggle combos here. And a big thing about this fight is you have to manage your heat, because you basically have to be in heat the entire time, because fighting this guy with no heat is kind of a completely miserable experience. I will end up doing it like near the end of like this fight, but like you really do not want to be like kept without heat. But yeah, no, just like the steps back. 1, having 0 speed boost option after like the brilliant inclusion of them in Lost Judgment is mind-boggling to me. Like, you always feel too slow for your own good in this game when comparison to those previous, like, I mean, like, you couldn't have included a dodge in the Agent style, like a certain counter in, like, the Yakuza style. Like, what are we doing here, dude? Why is there no speed boost options in this game? That should have been, like, mandatory for every single combat game, like, after Lost Judgment. It drives me fucking nuts. And also, like, the decrease of juggles. Like, there's a 6-second limit, and then the enemy just flops to the ground no matter what you do. And, like, I mean, Lost Judgment, I don't think it had a perfect solution for juggles because, you know, if you juggle the enemy for too much, you just end up dealing, like, nipple damage, and that's not exactly fun. But doing the juggles was still, like, very stylish, even though it was completely suboptimal. While here, I don't think there's any damage scaling for juggles just because they lowered how much you can, like, juggle the enemy forward, like, time-wise. Ugh, dude. It's just, like, the amount of stuff you can do in the juggles is just so lowered in comparison to Lost Judgment. It actually drives me mad. It's not like Kiryu's gonna get another game or anything. It's not like, wait, what, they're gonna do like Kiwami 3? They're gonna bring back the agent style? The agent style just feels like so dangerous to use, because like nearly every single heavy attack has the most amount of commitment possible. So just like doing it in juggles is like basically like impossible, because like you can't really like, you know, style switch out of anything you do it like the agent style. And also when you're in extreme, unless you're in extreme heat mode, and when you're in extreme heat mode, you don't have access to your basic combos. That's another insane thing. Because, like, I mean, in Judgment and Lost Judgment, they did this brilliant thing where when you're in extreme heat mode, you can still do your normal combos, but you get access to new combos by pressing the triangle button. But then in Gaiden, they just decided, actually, no, when you're in extreme heat mode, you don't have access to your normal combos in agent mode. You just have to do this new thing. And it's like, why couldn't they just do it the way which Judgment and Lost Judgment did it before? Is it because they have to, like, account for, like, the gadgets in this game? Just, this game drives me nuts. It's like, I mean, I don't think this game was exactly made in 6 months, but like it kind of feels like it. There's so many little things where it's like, hold up, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they add this up? Why is taunting and why is your heat bar so fucking hard to fill up in this game? Aside from destroying furniture, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna destroy some furniture so I get some heat. And I mean, I mentioned this in like the video where I do the no damage, the guided no damage, but yeah, I am using the item which pretty much like every time you do a heat action, instead of wasting an entire bar, you only waste half a bar. It is the most useful item in this game, and you're basically naked without it. You really do need that item. Oh, check out this little sync up though. Actually, I changed my mind. Don't check out that sync up. But yeah, no, there's Kaito Files onwards. There's something kind of rough about the way they animate these dynamic sequences. I think in Gaiden is probably like the best one out of like Kaito Files, this game, and Infinite Wealth. But like, I swear, they start animating these characters as if they're action figures. Like in this little sequence in particular, just like the way our boy here, Shishido, like pulls Kiryu up over there, it doesn't feel natural. Like, just like the physics don't add up. He just does one motion and he just does that. And the way Kiryu does it just doesn't feel natural. I mean, like, doing that is like impossible, but just like the physics of it don't feel real. You know, it's one thing for something to like be completely unrealistic, and it's another thing for it to feel unrealistic, you know? Like, that just doesn't add up. Like, the way he pulls that felt so light. It felt like there was nothing. He was, like, pulling nothing. And just the pulling of nothing just suddenly made this guy get pulled upwards. Like, I'm not an animation major or anything, but I feel like there was something wrong with that animation or something. It didn't feel right. It's just like after the Judgment and Lost Judgment ones were so good, it feels weird that, okay, in the Kaito Files I can kind of understand it was like a lower rent like DLC, so I guess some of the animation, honestly some of the stuff in the Kaito Files felt like animations from, like dynamic animations from like the PS2 games, I don't know. Like just, their expressions just aren't as like vibrant. Vibrant's the wrong word. Like just like the way their face moves is a lot more stiff. The way they move and fly around is a lot more stiff. Like the physics is weird. In Gaiden, there's like a couple smooth ones, but there's still like a weird, like some of the choreographies are like a little weird. And then you get to like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and that like a lot of the dynamic stuff in that game, like it really does feel like they're just like slamming action figures against each other. Especially like one of the final like dynamic QTEs against Danny Trejo, where he just gets bitten by a shark. It's like a shark just bit like a concrete block. He doesn't feel like he ate a human being. And mind you, if he actually like ate a human being realistically, like Danny Trejo would just be dead before the fight is over. But like just the way that whole sequence was choreographed looks so fucking goofy. And there's like a lot of it in like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And like a Dragon Infinite Wealth has like a lot more dynamic like intros, like sequence stuff than a lot of the past games, but just like there's also a good chunk of it that's like kind of awkward. Though there's still a lot of like really awesome ones despite the awkwardness, but like I thought it was worth mentioning. Check this out though. I like that final like dynamic ending sequence, but there's like a couple awkward sections in it. Just like the zoom in on the faces, I feel like the faces like expression is like a little bit too static, but besides that I like it. But then the final punch, the way he just lands on the ground, and like once he's on the ground, like there's like no physics to it, he just immediately splats on the ground. I don't like that one. It feels like a little bit awkward. But like the final shot of Kiryu just kind of looking down after like that huge epic fight is really great. I really like this dynamic intro, even though the setup's like a little bit goofy. He just like tries to punch him, and he's like immediately stopped by the guys there. But it just immediately sells this guy. You know, he's like the Messiah. He feels like godly. Just like boom, it already sets up like this fake god messiah setup thing. Just like super tense, and like the music, well, I mean, it's not as epic or like as Yakuza or as catchy as some of the other things, you know. It really does sell like the whole cultish aspect, though. This being Ichiban's final boss fight and like in his own game does feel like a little bit weak. But all things considered, I do think this boss fight was a little bit more interesting to figure out how to no damage it than the actual final boss, Ebina, because Ebina's just like a one-on-one. It wasn't too hard to figure out. This guy is like 3 whole crowds, and then like once we get to Ebina, we have to make sure he never does anything because he has a fucking gun, and all his gun and grenade attacks are unavoidable, so we have to pretty much stun him or kill him before he does any of that, or make him get to the 3rd phase where it's just a sword. And even at the sword phase, I don't want him to attack me because I do not know the perfect guard like parry timings for like that sword attack he does. Oh, and the worst part, okay, so like the Sea King's talisman in this game, pretty much when you do a perfect guard, it allows you to dodge the attack. However, the item also does this thing where it pretty much like decreases like the timing window for the perfect guard. So like, yeah, when you do a perfect guard, it allows you to dodge it, but it also makes doing perfect guards harder. I don't know, I don't like that. I kind of wish the timing was like a little bit more lenient, because like some of the timing for these attacks is kind of hard to tell, and sometimes the timing can change depending on like the spacing of the enemies. At least that's kind of the way I see it. Something notable to keep in mind is pretty much if fights are kind of split up into phases like this, this counts for this fight specifically. Pretty much like, you know, when you begin the fight, there's going to be a certain turn order. However, once we enter the 2nd phase, the turn order goes all the way to like the beginning. So it's like starting a whole new fight. You know, there's like no continuity from like the previous turn order once you enter this 2nd phase, and the same thing is going to apply for the 3rd phase. So you know, like, if it's like your 3rd party member's turn and you end this phase, in the next phase it's going to go back to like the 1st party member that had a turn in the 1st part. So that's going to be really important for routing if you're trying to figure this fight out as well. But the way I did it, I basically like spam summons and spam a really high-tech moves. And also, the most overpowered move is just the substitution jutsu. Because you can just switch back to Ichiban every time you do the substitution jutsu. Because Ichiban is the biggest, your main party like leader is always going to be the biggest damage dealer. Because he's the one who has access to summons, which allows him to basically do 2 attacks in 1 turn. So he's always going to be the best option unless a certain character has something like kind of specific to do, but like for dealing the most amount of damage possible, you're always going to want to switch up to your party leader because he's the one who can like activate stuff like this. And also like for the friendship attacks, like he's the one who like activates it from what I understand. And boom, we have like this little music like change up here where it's a little bit sad and he just picks up the big gun. And yeah, Ichiban's final boss fight is just fucking Jingu. I think that's kind of what pisses me off about it. You know, like, because typically in these games, you know, you'll fight a Jingu, you'll fight a Terada, and then you'll fight the actual final boss. But Ichiban never gets that chance because Kiryu just kind of takes it from him. Kiryu's the one who gets to fight the cool guy, while Ichiban is stuck with, like, the gun guy who, like, you know, plotted everything, but is kind of lame. Because that's who he is. Like, he just doesn't feel that threatening. But at the very least, this gun boss fight is more fun to fight than, say, you know, Jingu or Terada. Just like a gun boss fight in a turn-based setting just flows a lot better than like in the real-time settings. Just at the very least, the way Jingu and Terada were designed. Terada is fucking terrible in Kiwami. Jingu is terrible in Kiwami 1. Terada, not as hard in Kiwami 2, but still fucking terrible. He has hit scan weapons. Who fucking thought of that? The only way to dodge his shit is just to like never let him shoot the gun, or have a weapon which just blocks like the bullets. Because if you don't do that, he's just gonna hit you. It's fucking hit scan. It's like Call of Duty. Like the enemies are gonna hit you eventually if they keep shooting. You can't dodge that shit. It's hit scan. Oh my god, why did they do that? That is actually so infuriating. But yeah, so I just stunned our boy Bryce here with like a flashbang, and the amount of times like it'll take, how many flashbangs it'll take to stun him is random. I got really lucky here that my first like flashbang stunned him, but sometimes it could take like 2 to 4. You know, it kind of depends. And we really want to stun him just to make sure he does 0 attacks during like his gun and like grenade phase. And you know, once we get him down like low enough, he's gonna reach like his sword phase and all that. Yeah, we're just gonna like annihilate the guy. We're gonna do like our biggest damage dealing moves. And the best move in this game is Essence of Dolphin Dive, because you know it's a water attack. A lot of the boss fights are weak to water. And every time you do it, you actually like inflict a status ailment on the boss fight. You actually inflict a status ailment on the boss fight where they'll get weaker to water every time you use that move over and over again. Like it's an amazing damage dealer. Oh yeah, also the reason you want to keep like the whole, you know, the way this like the phases are separated, you know, the way the turn order like, you know, restarts is because if you like increase your attack in the beginning phases, I don't think those like attack boosts like carry over to the 2nd phase. Actually, let me double check that real quick. Yeah, no, that is how it works for this fight in particular, because, you know, if you do like an attack boost in the first phase, by the second phase, it's all going to be gone because it just resets everything, and same thing for the third phase, so the only time I'm like increasing my attack is in this third phase, and the way I do it is by just doing like the host assist, like the 4-shine summon, which every time you like summon them, it increases like the party's attack. It's super useful, but yeah, no. Spamming summons is kind of the way to go in like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, because the way to go with like a majority of these bosses is just killing them before they can do any of the moves that can actually hit you. Because even though we do have the Sea King's Talisman, a lot of these boss fights are still equipped with moves that are just 9 unavoidable. Like, I don't know, I mean, I haven't like fully tested it, but like, I mean, I tested it a good amount. Like, if a boss does like an AoE attack, the only person who can dodge that attack if you have the Sea King's Talisman equipped on every single party member, you know, if you actually perfect guard the attack perfectly, is the one character you're controlling, but the other party members are not going to follow suit. They're still going to get hit, so it just ruins your no damage attempt that way. I hope the next game has a more elegant solution for all that. Also, collecting all the Sea King's Talisman is going to be an insane grind, because there's only two ways to get like 2 in one playthrough. Basically, you get one by collecting all like the talismans like scattered around the open world. That's going to be a bit of a grind. I don't think they're called talismans, they're just like little like fortunes. You have to collect a fuck ton of fortunes in order to unlock the Sea King's Talisman. And then the second Sea King's Talisman is in the DLC like post-game map, like post-game dungeon, which you can only access after you beat the game and are in premium adventure. And also, if you don't buy the DLC, you can't access the Sea King's Talisman. So without the DLC, it'll actually take you 4 playthroughs to equip like the entire party with Sea King's Talismans. So, you know, and also for my no damage, like, you know, run, I only had 3 party members at one time, like, equipped with a Sea King's Talisman. At no point did I ever have them all equipped with Sea King's Talismans. So, you know, I kind of made do with that. So yeah, no, for one-on-one attacks, you can use the Sea King's Talisman to like avoid them. And for certain attacks, you kind of end up at this certain situation where you'll have to like, you know, perfect guard multiple times, because there's like certain attacks that like hit you multiple times. Like Joe Amon. The Joe Amon fight, you could dodge his attacks by perfect guarding, but like, you know, you're gonna have to do it multiple times. You know, you'll like dodge the first attack, and then like, you know, he'll do a second attack, a third attack, and like, you know, you won't have to perfect guard those, but then the fourth attack you'll have to perfect guard it again just to get that invulnerability again. So timing that becomes a big pain in the ass. And also, if you're curious, I did no damage Joe Amon in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I have a separate video for that. I have 2 videos on Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, one for the main story boss fights and one for the Big Swell boss fights. But in the Big Swell video, I also included stuff like the Yokohama Haunt and like the Big Haunt like boss fights. Well, not like all the boss fights, just like the last boss fights, you know, like the really big ones, aka the Bald Fucker and Joe Amon. And I also included someone else. No, I'm pretty sure those are all the boss fights in that like the Big Swell video. The Big Swell should not have been DLC. Like, the game is just kind of empty without like post-game content, and like the DLC is like the only thing that really brings post-game content. Also, the Big Swell's just not that hard. It's surprisingly easy. Which, mind you, I don't think I really wanted like a true Millennium Tower per se, because like that one's not even fun. But I really did want more of a challenge for like a post game, like maybe something slightly more like the true Millennium Tower with like more challenging enemies, just like actually making leveling up to like grinding to like level 9, like 99 actually worth it, because you know you do just kind of steamroll a majority of the game, and boom, Bryce is down. Let's check out the intro of the next boss fight, because it has probably the best final boss fight theme of the entire franchise. Check it out. I saw a tweet somewhere where someone like mentioned and pretty much like showed off the fact that this theme during a certain breakdown point like pretty much like plays the title theme from the very first Yakuza game. Like, you know how like when you open every single Yakuza game, you know, the title screen and the Yakuza word comes up like, you know, on the title? Like, the theme from the first game, they actually put it in this song, and like just hearing that, I was like, holy shit, this has to be the best final boss fight theme in the franchise, like by far. Like, it really does feel like the end of everything. Like this is Kiryu's like real end. I mean, like Yakuza 6's final boss fight theme is like good, but like, nah, dude, this is it. This is where that real shit is. It's like so bombastic. And I also love like the final boss fight themes in Yakuza 7 and 8 for having like these weird like synthy keys. I don't know, like that's like the 7 one. While in 8 it's like I love those specific keys. Like I don't know if it's an 80s thing or a 90s thing or like a synth thing or like a piano thing. I don't know what thing it is because I don't make music, but like it sounds incredible and I just love them. Like I think it's happening right now. It's like I think you can kind of hear the Yakuza 1 title theme like playing at that part of the fight right then and there. As for the actual strategy in this part, I'm just going to spam summons with Kiryu, and then like once I do a summon, I'm going to like throw an item which could stun him in this first phase. Because in this first phase, he's susceptible to lightning. In fact, he's actually weak to lightning. So because he's weak to lightning, you can stun him with lightning attacks, and one of the lightning attacks is just like a flashbang, but also there's a certain skill you can learn from another class where you just throw a jellyfish at him, and that also works. I did not know that until after I know damage this guy, but yeah, no. You need to stun him in this first phase, because like one of the first things he does is like a big AoE attack that's really like hard to dodge. Except, I think it's actually, like, there's this one big attack. No, I think it's like a big AoE attack that's really hard to dodge. Just, like, learning the timings for his attacks is kind of a pain in the ass. So we're just better off stunning him and then destroying his health bar until he reaches the second phase. Like, also, in this, the way the phases are split up here, it is, like, one big fight. So whatever you do in the first phase does carry over to the second phase, unlike that previous Bryce fight. The previous Bryce fight is, like, 3 fights, like one after the other, while this one is actually, like, one big fight. If that makes any sense. So you can like boost your attack right now and it would be good. Though, you know, we might as well not do it because we don't really have to. We have to like stun him first and then I'm going to start doing like the boosting attack stuff. And also he's weak to blade, he's weak to lightning, and he's finally stunned. So we're going to go into the second phase, and the stun is actually going to carry over to the second phase. But for the second phase, the first attack he does there, we shouldn't have to worry too much about it, because like in the second phase, he will always like do this one attack that's just like, he's going to like activate like a healing phase of some sort, where he's going to like heal himself a little bit, and then the second attack is the one we have to worry about. But the thing is, another thing we have to worry about is that this guy's like agility is pretty high, so sometimes he'll get like double turns, just like Tendo did in like 7, though nowhere near as like dangerous, but like he can pull it off every now and then. So in the second phase, like his first turn he was stunned, and then his second turn he like gets unstunned and does like his whole little healing phase. So I got really lucky there with the stun. But yeah, no. Once he's stunned, I'm gonna start doing like the little hostesses and whatnot to like boost my attack. But yeah, no. Ebina as a character though, I'm not fully in love with him. I don't know. I think he kind of like he's kind of a wet fart of a final boss fight. Like the thematics of him are really dope, but like the actual character himself, just I don't think it fully comes together. I think it's really rushed. He's pretty much like I think on the lower end of like he's like more like Shibusawa, more like Mine. Okay, and also during my walkthrough of Yakuza 3, I've kind of come to the realization I don't like Mine that much. Like, I just don't like that style of Yakuza villain, like the secretive guy who like waits the entire time and then like, oh, actually I was super strong this whole time, I was just hiding it. I don't like that sort of character. I just have to come to terms with it. I don't really fuck with these characters who hide in the shadows the entire game and then only start doing shit at the very end and pretty much like info dump their entire sad backstory to you at the very end. I guess Ebina, out of like that trope, is one of the better ones. Just because like the stuff that's going on with this thematics are like so interesting that it kind of puts him above someone like Shibusawa. Shibusawa is probably like the worst of them all. Like, I mean, this type of characters, okay, let's describe him. There's Mine, who just, I fucking hate orphanages because I was an orphanage. Okay, he was made of wood. Fucking, he has aura. And his fight's awesome, but like, and his voice actor is really good, but I much prefer the character types of like Ryuji or just like villains that like actually interact with you like throughout the entire game and then you get to fight them at the very end. But I feel like Ryuji's the only one that fits that archetype because like every single other one is more of the Mine style. I guess Nishiki kind of does that, but in the first game like his appearances are pretty limited. But in Kiwami 1 he gets a little bit more like backstory. I'm not 100% sold on it, but like it was a nice addition and kind of like fleshed things out a little bit more. And Zero like I think really helped bring things together. The way they exchange punches there, that's how action figures fight. But honestly, in this case, it's pretty awesome. But I just wanted to mention that there. Yeah, no, so like, I mean, Mine, and then after Mine, Yakuza 4. Yakuza 4 has some pretty underwhelming villains, all things considered, for the most part. And then Yakuza 5. I mean, okay, Watase is awesome, but he's not really a villain per se. But yeah, like the main final boss fight being like, yeah, you know, I really don't know why I'm here. I'm gonna be honest with you. That was very silly. Iwame, he's just a viciously evil guy. Like, I mean, like, I don't know, final guy of all time. I don't know about all that, but like, it was pretty fun to have a somewhat viciously evil guy. But he doesn't stack up to some of the better villains in the series. Oh wait, there was Kuze. Kuze in Zero was really good. Aono, his character was kind of all over the place. He did some really shitty things, and then like he ends up fighting Majima. Just like, it's kind of like a weird disconnect. You would expect him that you would fight him with Kiryu, but no, he just ends up fighting Majima. Like, oh, okay. And they have a little like bromance there. And then in, oh no, but then there was a. Okay, I just forgot. I'm like brain farting right now. But yeah, just the thing with Ebina is that it's all these thematic themes. Like Yakuza 8 has a lot of like Christian and like Buddhist symbolism. Like, you know, Kiryu's kind of like Jesus Christ here. He's like taking on the sins of the Yakuza. And he's like asking him like, please forgive them, please forgive them. While the methodology of Ebina is like a more Buddhist, like I'm going to destroy everything. And here's the thing, I say that knowing nothing about Buddhism. So I actually don't know like what the Buddhist like parallels are with like Ebina. But they are there and they are a big part of the story. And like that's all very interesting, and also just like this villain, like, you know, forcing Kiryu to admit that, yo, supporting the Yakuza for this long was pretty fucked up. Like, they're very fucked up people. You shouldn't have been enabling them for so long. This is kind of your fault. Like that's really compelling stuff. But fuck, dude, it all gets like rushed at the very end. Just like there's like so many villains in 8, and they all it gets to like a borderline episodic structure, like in Yakuza 3, where they just kind of show up a chapter, they leave. They show up for a chapter, they leave. And this is most damning with people like Dwight. Oh, wait, no, not Dwight. Dwight's actually one of the better examples in this game. But the character was so forgettable that I forgot about him. Like after you do his boss fight, Wang To. Like, just fuck, did they fuck up that guy so bad? Like, oh my goodness. And also, like, the whole story with fucking wheelchair guy just did not fully pan out. It felt very rushed. It just didn't feel like complete. And here I decided to do this summon because, like, in the second phase, Ebina's weaknesses like completely change. In the first phase, he's like weak to like blade, electricity, but then in the second phase, he resists those, so you can't stun him with that anymore. You can't really stun him in the second phase from what I understand, so now we just have to kill him. And he's weak to water, so we get to use the best move in the game, Essence of Dolphin Dive, and also this like cool little summon. But yeah, in order to like summon like continuously summon summons over and over and over again, like you need to have infinite wealth. You're basically I think I'm gonna use all my money in this fight, or like very close to like all my money. Also, like it's best to have as many female like companions as possible because they are the only ones who have access to the substitution jutsu. Even though Saiko's not really that great of a party member, because I never need to heal. And her big special ability is centered around healing, so it's just kind of like, it's useless. However, her demon outfit is really cute, so I decided to have her in the party specifically because of that. And, oh, also because of the substitution jutsu. But yeah, it's just the demon outfit's great. I fuck with it heavy. And how we're going to do the little dolphin dive here. I've done this move before, but now I decided to let the little animation play out in full this time. And yeah, letting the animations play out in full is very entertaining. Also, one thing is, in Yakuza 7, for my Roblox 7 video, all the summons, even if I turned off all the music, all the summons would still have like their own music. However, in Yakuza 8, when I turn off all the music, all the summons have their music turned off, and that's going to make editing Roblox 8 so much more easier. But now, I actually need to make like the mod exist somehow. I'm going to like team up with some modders and just kind of like, you know, get going on that whenever it is possible, but don't expect it anytime soon. I'm just going to be doing other stuff in the meantime. Might try to no damage a Wii Sports Resort Golf. But you know, the tactic is just kill him before he does any moves. And, you know, do a little bit of stunning here, a little bit of stunning there. Yeah, no, the way you no damage boss fights in Yakuza 8 is not at all the way you do it in 7. In 7, you just increase your agility and like your evasion to the max. But in 8, the way the things work, you can't really do that anymore. I mean, you could still kind of dodge things in 8, but like, you can't like spam quickness lemonades and like, you know, rely on that. You basically either have to like stun the enemies in a way where they won't do attacks, kill them before they do any dangerous attacks, or use the Sea King's talisman to pretty much like perfect guard and avoid certain things. And yeah, that's my video of all the boss fights in the Yakuza franchise. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble about this series that I've been playing for more than 4 years, but I have been no damaging them for 4 years specifically. But yeah, no, I'll see you all then for the next one. Thank you.